Hey guys, welcome again to the channel of Birddog Austria. Today it's absolutely pleasure. I have here Dohrman Crawford. He is a retired major. He was born in the 24th November 1946, and he flew the Birddog, the F4, the F100, and even the F15 EAGLE. What a story. Dohrman, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I actually retired as a lieutenant colonel. It's probably a case of you rise to your level of incompetence, the Peter principle. But I retired as I started as a second lieutenant flying bird dogs, and I ended up as what I used to make fun of, a guy with hair starting to turn gray, who's a lieutenant colonel, and I was the squadron commander of the F15 unit. And I had a collection of lieutenants that loved to try to pull pranks on me, and they did every day. But I have to admit, I'm the worst guy in the world you want to get into a prank war with. You don't want to mess with me too much. But it was fun. It was every day. I couldn't find my hats. Well, at Vincent, I knew just to go to the freezer because they had frozen it in a block of ice. That sort of thing. Innocent stuff. Fun. Much fun. I'm from a tiny village in Ohio, Stratton, Ohio, but between 400 and 500 people. My dad had the grocery store, and we lived above it in a little apartment. And I grew up playing baseball with my friends every day. There was no little league, no scheduled games. No one had uniforms. We just went to a field and played baseball and football every day when we weren't running around up in the woods I grew up right on the Ohio River, which looks just like the Rhine. Mm-hmm. It's just exactly like that terrain, except we had no castles, but we had brickyards and steel mills and things like that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place to grow up. And I had a wonderful childhood, just tremendous. After that, college, the Air Force, and here I am.
Yeah, but what connected you with aviation? Was one of your family members flying, your dad or whatever?
No. When I was a little boy in elementary school in Stratton, I was fascinated by fighter planes. Mm-hmm. And I would get in trouble because instead of doing my work, I would draw little air battles, with little airplanes and the dots coming out, and the teacher would get angry with me. And in that same time period, we lived above my father's store. It's 19 steps down to the outside. And I would hear jet engines, very loud jet engines. And I knew what it was. I would race to the door, run down the steps, make two left-hand turns, and shoot out onto and look up. And here comes two F-102s. And they always came the same way. They'd come down and make a left turn right over our store at about 1,000 to 1,500 feet. And they looked like an arrowhead. I didn't know what they were at the time, but they made so much noise and were going so fast. I said, oh, I want to do that someday. I really want to do that. That's what I want to do. And then in college, one of my fraternity brothers got his pilot's license. And he took me up for an airplane ride. I was the first passenger he ever flew with. Okay. I was the first guy. And B-Bach takes me up. We were both in ROTC. And I thought, maybe I could get to be a pilot, But he took me up for an airplane ride. I loved it. I've always liked roller coasters and things like that. Well, this was wonderful. We're floating around in a Cessna 150. Looking down, this is great. This is what I want to do.
Obviously, he did a good job.
Well, I learned valuable lessons on the way. I went for a physical at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton because I went to Miami University, Oxford, Ohio.
Which year was it? Which year?
This would have been probably 66 or 65 or 66 or 67, somewhere in there. And I I went for the physical, and I'm talking to this guy eventually, and he asked me why I had joined ROTC. And I said, well, to tell you the truth, I was walking through the student union, and this colonel and the sergeant jumped out from the potted plants and wrestled me to the ground and told me, to sign up for ROTC. And I was joking. Colonels don't normally jump out and wrestle people to the ground. And I thought it was kind of funny. And I said, well, here I am. And he gave me a down in motivation because of how I told that story. I wasn't sufficiently motivated to be a pilot. And that's when I learned that you tell them what they want to hear. If they don't know you had it, you never had it. You just lie your tail off if you have to, and you do what you got to do to get in. So I did that, and I got accepted, got commissioned, and off I went.
Wow. And how was your career starting? How about flight school?
I thought I was probably the hottest thing going. I bought a used Mustang convertible, and I headed off to the Air Force in this gorgeous Mustang, driving from Ohio to Laredo, Texas. And I eventually showed up. There were not that many interstates then. So I went through 2-lane roads through the South. I can remember very clearly in pouring rain going through Arkansas on this beautiful curvy road. And there was a huge sign that said, catfish, all you can eat, $5 or whatever the price was. And I remember thinking, good Lord, they eat catfish? Because growing up in the then polluted Ohio River, no one would touch a catfish because the water was so bad. Now it's been fixed and it's beautiful. But at the time I thought, I now think catfish is really a good choice. It's wonderful. But I made my way down there and started pilot training in May of '68, and I graduated 53 weeks later.
Yeah, but did you start flying with the Birddog? How did your flights go?
No, in the Air Force, you're in your class, and you've got brand new flight suits. There are no wrinkles. I mean, you look very new. New hats. We got our little hats. They're little gold bars. And you go out and you start flying what is basically a 172. The Air Force called it a T-41.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With just two seats in it. And that's what they used to weed out people. That was the first thing to weed people out. Well, my instructor was Mr. Drucker, Jerry Drucker, who had been an F-100 pilot in Vietnam. And I thought he was like a god.
Yeah.
He was busy running the operation. So I didn't get to fly every day like everybody else. I had to fly. I waited. It was, 1 or 2 days between flights, a couple days sometimes. And the guys would tease me about it. Here's old Crawford sitting on his butt again, not flying. But we were flying along, and I already had my private license from the ROTC program. And Mr. Drucker and I were flying, and he looked over at me and he said, Crawford, you fly a pretty darn good airplane. And I thought, wow, this is from an F-100 pilot? Oh boy, wow. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. As soon as we got done with the T-41, our numbers in our class had been reduced somewhat, and we went to the T-37, twin jet little trainer side by side. And there things did not go so well. I had an instructor who was very angry that he had been assigned to be a T-37 instructor. He was not a happy man. And he was what we would call a screamer. Okay. He liked to shout and yell, and he would hit me on the side of the head with his fist in the helmet. He'd beat me on the side of the head, or he'd grab my oxygen mask and shake it back and forth while he's just going completely crazy.
Come on.
I remember thinking, whatever caused me to think I would want to do this? This is miserable. This is horrible. I can't even think. This guy's shouting from the moment we, screaming and yelling. And I went into my flight commander. The Air Force has flights. Squadrons are made up of flights, typically 4 ABC, 4 flights, maybe D. Each flight has a flight commander. This is all ruled over by the squadron commander. So I go to my flight commander, who was a good man, major, and I said, I'd like to request an instructor change, because I didn't say anything to the flight commander about hitting me and all that. I remember one flight, I was so angry, and I've always been I have a bad temper, but I keep it in a box. And I like knocking people down. I used to enjoy that in college playing football. I love knocking people flat on their back.
Okay.
Smash them, hit them hard, knock them down. They're just, and you think, you just met me. How about that? How do you like that? Anyway, I thought, well, I'll get on the ground. I'm going to beat this guy up right at the airplane. I'm going to punch him out. And then as I flew back and we taxied in, I thought, that's probably not a good career choice. I think I better just keep my mouth shut. For once in your life, keep your mouth shut. Go see the boss. Get an instructor change. I did. I'm flying with this guy who was very soft-spoken. We go out and fly. He says, Crawford, you fly a damn good airplane. Because I was labeled as a guy who wasn't very good by this guy. I'm one of the problem children. I'd been okay. I've been good but now I'm one of the, watch out for him. He's kind of weak. I didn't feel like I was weak. This guy says I'm good. So we flew another time, and he soloed me out. We're on the spot. He said, make the next landing a full stop. Taxi over there and shut the right engine down. I said, what's going on, sir? He said, I'm going to solo your ass out. You're good. Go out. So we did it. I took off and did my solo. I have never felt anything so cool in my life. The T-37 performed exactly like an early to mid World War II fighter. Same speed range. Max speed was 382 knots or 0.72 Mach. Very maneuverable, extraordinarily maneuverable little airplane. It was like a early World War II fighter in performance. Now people look down on it and say, oh, that was a little dog. No, it was perfect for its job. Had good Cessna high lift wings. You could spin it. I loved spins. Loved it. Loved spinning. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got through the T-37 and went to the T-38. And then
how was it? Because for me, it's hard to imagine. And I think for many other guys also, you flew the Cessna 172 and suddenly they put you in a jet.
Yes.
And all things are way faster. The approach speed is higher and everything goes way faster, or not?
Well, that's the Cessna Tweet. We called it a Tweet. The T-37 was known as the Tweet because of the screaming sound the engines made.
Okay.
The French designed engines that made this shrieking sound that it wrecked my ear. I'm sure it wrecked my ears. I wear hearing aids now. But it was designed brilliantly. The approach speed was roughly 100 knots.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very slow. Very easy to fly. Could put you in it and take you around the pattern a couple of times and get out and say, go have fun.
Okay.
And you'd be just fine. You wouldn't have the slightest problem. Tricycle gear, underpowered. You had old design engines, so you have to anticipate this engine's going to take a long time to spool up, so you don't get in trouble and go, oh my goodness, because it's not gonna work. You have to know back here you're in trouble.
Okay.
That sort of thing. But it was very easy to fly. It was a delight to fly. Really fun. Very acrobatic. We did every kind of acrobatic you could think of.
But that's a good explanation, because I always thought, I fly the Birddog, I flew a lot of other planes, but my thinking is 85 knots. And when you get into a jet, I think your speed increases, and on one point your thinking is 300 knots.
Well, in the F-100, for example, our touchdown speed was 143 knots.
Oh, okay.
You come down final about 170, 160, 170 knots. Very fast.
Yeah.
The F4 was the same because they disabled the bleed air engine bleed over the wing, which allowed them to fly very slow for carrier landings. It was too expensive to maintain, so they just blocked it off, and we landed at half flaps and about 100 knots. And that's how we did it. In the F-15, though, you flew in pretty slow. I don't remember how fast we landed that thing. You used angle of attack anyway. You didn't care what the speed was. You had everything's right there in front of your face. You just fly the angle of attack. But the Tweet was a perfectly designed little airplane. Had ejection seats, of course. They give you training in that ejection seat, and it's a cannon shell ejection. It's not a rocket, it's a cannon shell, a blank cannon shell. And you climb into this thing, and all your buddies are watching you, and you're sitting there thinking, oh, this is not going to be good. And you fire that thing off, and there's a big bang, and it feels like your butt cheeks got that wide because it slams into you, and you go up this rail, and hydraulics slow you down. And then you come down very slowly. But it's quite a kick in the butt. It's like, boom.
Boom, yeah.
But it would work, at above a certain speed, it worked anyway.
So after the P-37, you came to the 38?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did very well in the T-38. I kind of lost my fear of check rides and all that. And I did not distinguish myself in academics because my whole life, if I didn't want to do the homework, I didn't do the homework. I just didn't do it. I could get by. I could fake it. I could wing it. I could tap dance. And I did that, and I didn't care. A lot of these classes, I didn't give a damn about these courses. So my academic standing was, middle of the pack or maybe a little bit below that. And so the guys who were maybe couldn't fly very well, but had aced their academics were higher than me on the list. When we got our assignments, because I did really well particularly at the end, where we did 4 ships, and I flew lead and 3. So lead is lead. You're the leader of the formation. You are responsible for keeping the airplane in the area. You're responsible for all those other 3 guys, having them on the correct side, doing everything like that. And we got back from my 4-ship check, and the guy said, that was a damn good job, Dorm. Much better, much, much better than the average bear. I thought, oh, wow, good. It's probably too late to save me. I'll probably get a transport plane or something. But, at least I know I did well. Well, the instructors took our class standing, and they redid it themselves. They changed our class standing to reflect what they were looking at. And so a number of my instructors were, we only got 3 fighters, 3 F-100s, and 1 106. The top guy in the class took the 106, and the other 3 guys took F-100s. We had plenty of backseat F-4s, guy in the backseat. And our instructors who had been backseat F-4 guys said, you don't want to do that.
No.
You're going to be flying with some guy from the Pentagon who's been in the Pentagon for 5 years, and they brought him over, gave him a quick course, and he's going to get you killed because he's going to do something really stupid. He said, I would avoid the backseat of the F-4. Well, the next group that I thought would be the forward air control thing. It's one engine, me, and that sounds like I'll do that. I'll put that in. So I did.
So you had a choice to choose?
Yeah, you could pick what you wanted, and then you got whatever was left when you went to the table.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of the way it worked. Most guys in the class got transports. That was most of our class. The bag of it, the collection of airplanes we were able to pick from was mostly multi-engine airplanes.
Okay.
So I got one of the only single-engine planes, and I did not know when I picked that airplane that at that time they were shooting facts down in great numbers.
Yeah.
So I found out. So, well, we'll see what happens, because that's what I'm doing.
Because I had an interview with Jimmy Butler. Maybe you know him. I had an interview with Jimmy Butler. Maybe you know him.
I know a Bob Butler. I know a Bob Butler. I don't know Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler was also flying for the Air Force, and he told me he had to go. He had no choice to choose. They sent him to the Birddog.
Well, I picked it.
That's fantastic. Okay, yeah. And in your case, you wanted it, yeah. So that's very good.
It didn't matter. It did. I knew what we were all going one way or another. We're all going to go to Vietnam.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I looked into it a little bit and thought this might be a good job. I don't want to fly in a big airplane, someone's co-pilot.
But did you had any background information about the missions of the Birddog? What those guys are doing?
Not really. Just what I read in Air Force magazine. I knew they put in airstrikes. That's really about all I knew. I knew nothing about the Birddog itself as an airplane. I didn't know squat. So when I showed up at school at Eglin Hurlburt Field, and we were at a little auxiliary field called Holly Field, which is now a subdivision. You're looking around thinking, because you're an Air Force guy. We have nice things. Everything is first class compared to the poor guys in the Navy. They got nothing. I mean, you'd have to be you don't want to be a Navy guy. You want to go to the Air Force. The Air Force has nice things. And I get to this, I go out to this field, and it's got this little dirt runway. There's trees all over the place and dust and things. And I thought, wow, oh, there's a Birddog. Go over there and look at this thing and think, okay, that should be pretty easy for me. I'm a hot second lieutenant. I can do this. And I met my instructor, who's a kind of a portly major. I would describe him as an old fat major. And he's a pretty rough guy. He was gruff, but he was good. They were all veterans. They'd all done the job. And we're coming in from my first landing. And I'm the hot jet jockey from pilot training, right? I mean, I'm just, how could I fail at anything? I'm a stud. We come in there and I hear this voice in my headphones. You better get that stick back, Junior. And I'm going, what's he talking about? This looks good to me. We came in and I plunked down on nose main gear, and I'll bet you I bounced 50 feet in the air. And I thought, aha, going around, pouring the coals to it. Aha, there's more to this than meets the eye. And he really accentuated and emphasized, you got to get the stick all the way back, and you must keep it straight. And if you do that, it's easy. If you let it get out of control, it becomes very hard. So I did that. Keep it simple, keep it straight, stick all the way back. Lock it, bam, back, all the way, hard, pull it back. I never had a problem. Never ground looped one, never had to slide, even in crosswind, no problem at all. Easy to fly, And it took me that first bounce knocked all the false pride out of me. And I said, maybe I better listen to this guy. I don't know as much as I think I do.
But you didn't have those tail wheel trainings. Did you see all those tail wheel Birddog training videos?
I didn't see any videos.
Oh, really? Okay. So they came later on.
That was a long time ago, but I don't remember anybody showing any videos about how to land a tail dragger. They basically said, look, use your rudder. If it's a crosswind, use your rudder to land it. They emphasize full stall landings. Yeah. I don't think I ever made a roll-on landing in it. I always did it. I always practiced
3 point
full stall short field landing in case I had to go into some little field. I wanted to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to do it automatically because that's what I did. I always landed at 3 point.
So did you use flap 60?
Yes, yeah. We did. And It's almost like as I learned later, flying fighters, it's like a dive bomb pass.
Yeah.
You have to have the nose down, and we practice short field, and you have the power on. Particularly as you rotate, you got to be careful when you pull the power off, because if you do it at the wrong time, as I'm sure you know, you're kind of like a brick dropped out of from waist level.
Yeah.
You hit very hard.
Yeah.
But if done properly, there's nothing wrong with it at all. We weren't even told it was dangerous. Just you're supposed to be the master of your airplane, and they made us become masters of our airplane. So I didn't have any. Oddly enough, later at Delta, on the 727, when I was a co-pilot initially, they were always, people would say, "Oh, don't use 40 flaps. Don't use 40 flaps." I said, "Why not?" "Oh, it's really bad. You'll hit like a ton of bricks." I thought, well, they put it on the airplane for a reason. It can't be that hard. This is a transport airplane. Real morons can fly these things safely. There's more than one moron in the cockpit. You'll probably figure it out. And I did 40 flap landings on the 7.2 on short runways all the time. It was no problem at all. Pay attention. Just pay attention. Same with the bird dog.
Yeah, yeah. Because
just be careful.
I'm the safety director of the International Bird Dog Association, and I get all those crash reports every year. Mostly we have between 6 and 10 crashed or ground looped bird dogs every year, and our number is declining. I think we are now below 200 bird dogs flying in the world.
Wow.
And that's
just a question of recency, not flying enough, probably. And when you do fly, you always do the easiest thing. You make one takeoff, you flag somewhere, you make a landing, you get a hamburger, you fly back, it costs you $100. That's it. That's what you do with those planes. But instead of that, you should maybe go out and do some practice and get good at it. That's all you got to do. It's an easy plane to fly.
Yeah,
when I came back, I used to subscribe to a magazine called Air Progress. And it was an article about the bird dog. And it said it was treacherous on the ground because it didn't have a locking tail wheel. And I remember thinking, who is this guy? This is an airplane that 18-year-old kids fly in combat. It's one of the easiest. It's a Cessna. It's easy to land, and it's easy. It's got a big rudder. If you can't keep it straight with paying attention, then you shouldn't be in the airplane. You should be driving a bread van or something, delivering donuts. It's that easy. It's not that hard. Just be alert, be aware, react.
Yeah.
Stick all the way back.
That's what we always say. The bird dog, there's no time to be asleep. And the landing is finished when the plane has stopped.
In the chocks.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
I loved the airplane. I just loved it.
Which year did you came into the bird dog? Must be then 67, 68?
I graduated from pilot training in 68 and then went through my school's, bird dog school. And then in the fall, I went to survival school and then on to Vietnam. I went to survival school and they don't feed you. You don't get fed. And you're out there running through the mountains being pursued by these guys and there's no food. If you can get some food, you get food. You do what you can. I caught a nice trout and gobbled it down, made a little fire and cooked it and ate it. That's the only time I've ever been really hungry in my whole life. So we have it pretty easy.
They leave you completely alone?
What's that?
They leave you completely alone, so you're really on your own to get some food?
Well, you are with a group, but there's a stage where you have to go and across the mountains, big mountains, with one other guy and a compass, and you must find a guerrilla camp. And if you find the guerrilla camp, they will feed you. Well, while you're trying to find the guerrilla camp, they are hunting you. They're trying to find you. So if they catch you, they throw you in a prison camp. And it's not fun being in the prison camp.
Okay.
Not at all. This was in preparation for going to Vietnam. After pilot training, you have to go to survival school. I lost 12 pounds
Wow.
pretty quick. So I don't recommend it as a diet exercise, but and now that I look back, it was fun. At the time, it was miserable. It was cold enough to see your breath, and it rained all the time. We didn't have much in the way of equipment, just what you could, carry. So it is what it is. It was a good experience. I learned much.
But that's a difference to the Army guys. I don't remember that any of the Army pilots ever told me that they were sent to survival camp.
Well, they had a real, you were supposed to escape and evade across this area, which was booby-trapped with noisemakers and flares and things. And I took some extra, most guys got grabbed right away. But at the end, they're going to get you, because to finish the exercise, you have to say, well, here I am. Mm-hmm. And so I went all the way out. It was like an L with the base of the L pointing to your left. It was a right angle kind of a course. And I went all the way out to the right and took the long way. And I crawled carefully, and I made it all the way through. But then they grab you and they throw you in this camp, and they slap you around a little bit. Not bad. Not bad. They shoved me in a box about 2 feet by, I was 5'11", about 180, 190.
Wow. Okay.
I've shrunk. I'm not that, I'm not tall anymore, or that tall anymore. But they put you in a box about like that, by this, by that, and they get you in that box by shoving you in there like you're a piece of meat. And my hands were behind me, and they slam the door on it, and they leave you in there. Well, they tore one of my fingernails off slamming the door. Wow. And that's the way it goes. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Okay.
This is a taste of what you might have to endure. The end result of all of this was I was determined. I'd already finished my bird dog training, and now I'm in the pipeline to go overseas. No one's taken me alive.
Yeah,
I could see I wouldn't do well in a prison camp. So I had extra ammunition in the bird dog, we carried a bandolier of clips. Each clip has, each magazine, not a clip, a magazine, has 30 rounds. I had no tracers, just ball ammunition. And in the back of the airplane, I had I traded for an M79 grenade launcher, a single shot. They called it a blooper. Shoots a 40 millimeter grenade. I had grenades. I had extra batteries for my survival radio, because I knew we didn't wear parachutes. They didn't have parachutes for us. So you weren't jumping out of the airplane, and there were always two of us. If you had parachutes, one guy's not going to be able to get out of the airplane. So we generally just threw the parachutes in the back. And when they finally got them, said, you have to wear the parachutes. We said, no. We just put them in the back, because you couldn't get out of the airplane. My plan was to, if I got hit and was going down, squeal like a pig on the radio with my position and try to survive the landing and get out of the airplane and get away from it, because I knew that within a very short time, a whole bunch of young, crazy helicopter Army pilots were going to come get me. And all I had to do was live for half an hour or so.
Okay.
And that was my plan. Extra batteries, plenty of ammo, water, get away from the crash. Luckily, it never happened, but I knew there was no way I was going to get captured. No way. I was going down.
What weapons did you have? You had the AR-15, or did you have the M16?
We carried. We wore we had a Smith & Wesson Combat Masterpiece 38 caliber pistol, which would have been as useful as throwing rocks. Most people are terrible pistol shots.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a pretty good shot, but we had a folding stock Car 15, M16 with a short stock and a short barrel that we carried in the emergency door release.
Yeah.
By your knee.
Yeah.
You just turn it upside down and stick it muzzle down, and
like here in the picture
right
that I
there.
have. Yeah,
right there. Yeah, right there. And it fits right there. And I had all the bandoliers stashed on the plane, and that's how I went to war. And your big bag of maps, binoculars, huge binoculars, like a U-boat captain would have had,
okay.
to see the enemy.
Yeah.
Great big binoculars, which we used all the time. They were spectacularly useful, because the bird dog can be flown. If you get up high, get up pretty high, they can't hear you. They don't even hear you. They don't even know you're there. And you can see guys walking around, and you plot their position, and then you bring a hammer to their heads. Pretty hard business, but that was my job. Now, I got to Vietnam in September of '68 at Phan Rang, and that's where they taught us. The guys taught us stuff that was current. And I remember on one of my first flights, we're going, because I didn't shot any rockets. That we didn't do any rocket shooting. You get
like the Army guys. Interesting.
You'll get that over there. It's easy.
Okay.
And so, you just can't be pushing or pulling, and you got to have it coordinated so it goes straight. If you're doing anything with a stick or rudders, it'll go shooting off, and God knows where it'll go.
So you didn't shoot even one rocket in training?
I don't remember that we did.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think we did.
How many hours did you have on the bird dog before you came to Vietnam?
Oh gosh, I should have looked that up. I did whatever I had, 50 or 60 hours. I don't know.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Probably a standard, probably about the same as the Army guys. But I went on one of my first training missions at Phan Rang on the coast, and we went over to do we're doing map reading, and we flew at 1,500 feet, because that's just outside the expected range of small arms.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I believe in percentages. What's the percentage of me getting killed if I get down, 500 or 600 feet to fly around? I'm right there. I'm right there. If I was right on the trees, I'm a harder target, but I can't see anything.
Yeah.
My job is to see things. So I figured 1,500 feet, that's a tough target. So we go out and fly around. I'm reading the map. I'm doing okay, finding the places you go to, and they give you coordinates, and you're sitting up there and you're plotting it out, and you fly to there. Here it is. There's a temple. I see it. Oh yeah, good. Well, then I hear this sound. You remember as a child, did you have a plastic ruler when you were a little boy in elementary school? Well, those little cheap plastic rulers. And you've probably broken one of those rulers. You remember the snap snakes? Remember that sound?
Yeah.
That's what AK-47 fire sounds like.
Oh, okay.
You hear this little plasticky snap, but it's always snap, 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 snap. And I said to the instructor, what's that sound? He said, they're shooting at us, you dumbass. Let's get out of here. Well, I didn't know. No one ever shot at me before.
But that's the supersonic sound of the bullet, or?
Evidently.
Yeah.
Evidently. Heavier things make much louder noises.
Yeah.
Heavier weapons make terrifying noises when they go by.
Before we come to Vietnam, just one final question. So they checked you out in flight school with the bird dog, and then you were sent home for 4 weeks, or did you get straight up to Vietnam, or did you have a 1 month vacation or something?
There was no leave.
No leave?
No. You went right through. I got married in there and married my wife. We've been married many years. I have 2 children. We did our honeymoon driving down to training at Hurlburt. That was it. And then I went to bird dog school, survival school, go to Vietnam. There was no 30 days leave. In fact, my mother, who I mentioned had a big mouth, had been a Lady Marine in World War II. She was a Lady Marine. My father was Army Air Corps. He was a staff sergeant. My mother was a quartermaster sergeant, because the men were all in the Pacific with a rifle. So the women did all the sending the Jeeps out and all the equipment. And she gets the idea that I should have 30 days leave before I go overseas. She didn't say anything to me. She writes our congressman, says, I'm upset. My son's not getting 30 days leave. Now, I'm in pilot training, and toward the end, my mother was very worried about me going to Vietnam, I guess. Well, she was.
Yeah.
And I get called out of class to come in and see the colonel. I said, yes, sir. What can I do for what's up, sir? And he said, well, Crawford, sit down. I sat down. He said, why have you been complaining about your assignment? I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't complained to anybody. I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to it. And he says, we've gotten something from Congress, a congressman. I said, I know where this started. Colonel, sir, I will take care of this personally. You will not be hearing any more news from any congressman. I said, I know exactly. This is from my mother, who did this without talking to me about it, and I will handle this my own way.
Yeah.
And I called my mother up, and we had a come to Jesus meeting on the phone. And I said, you keep, you mind your own business. This is none of your business. This is me. This is my job. You cannot interfere. So you got to stop this, that sort of thing.
And she accepted?
I totally understand why she did.
Okay.
She meant well.
Yeah, of course. That's clear.
But basically, pilot training, airplane training, schools. And then we went overseas. I did jungle survival in the Philippines. You had to go to jungle survival. And then you go to wherever you're going to be based in Vietnam. That sort of thing.
How was your first day in Vietnam?
I got off that bus, and the first thing when we got on the bus, Blue Air Force bus, school bus. The windows covered with wire, screen wire.
Okay.
I wonder why these things why do they have screens on the windows? Why would they do that? Well, someone said, well, so they can't throw a grenade in the bus.
Okay.
The bat would bounce off. I thought, oh yeah, this is a war zone. It was hot. It was so hot. And it takes you a while to get used to it. And you know how you see guys in advertisements that are wearing these little tight white jockey short underpants. They're always young and muscular. And you don't wear underpants like that in Vietnam. You wear baggy boxer shorts because it's just I didn't have. That's all I had was those. For a young guy like I was at the time. I found out in about a day. I threw all those babies away. They went right into the garbage. I went to the BX and bought these big bloomers, olive drab boxer shorts, and that's the only way you could make it. It was tough. It was bad, hot. You get used to it though.
And everything was very good organized when you came in. So everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much. We sat around for it's a typical military thing. They get you there, then you wait.
Okay.
You go somewhere else, and then you wait. And you go here, and then you wait. And it's always a process. And when we went to Phan Rang for FAC school, we sat around for a couple of days, and then we started flying. And then you catch a ride to your duty station, which in my case was Quy Nhon on the coast.
But let's get back to FAC school, because this is new. It's the first time I've ever heard that there was a FAC school in Vietnam. What did they teach you there? Shooting rockets, finding the enemy?
Shooting rockets, how to make very sure you can read a map. We'd go up at night and do blackout landings with no runway lights, no lights on the airplane at all.
Oh, okay.
No, it sounds terrible, but if you've been up there, because our instrumentation was so bad on the airplane, we were not allowed to fly at night in the Birddog. They did not want us flying at night. The instruments were coated with radium or something, and on the right there and there on your coming down, right up in there was a light, and one on the other side, and you turn it on, and it put this. They were black lights, and it was like the one the kids in the '60s used for their posters. Mm-hmm. You know, they had posters and they would glow. Well, that's what illuminated the lights. There were no lights in the panel. They were done by these spotlights, and so they were worthless. It was terrible. So, you know, you can't read the instruments or anything. We didn't have much in the way of instruments anyway. So basically, we did not fly at night, but we still did the training, blackout landings on a blacked out runway, which, you know, that worked out okay. It's not hard.
Okay.
Pretty easy. You practice learning to shoot rockets. They would give you information on, you know, you're going to be perhaps dealing in a battle. You know, there's going to be a fight, and you're going to be the guy overhead, and you must make damn sure that no one gets hit by our bombs. You've got to figure out a way to deconflict that. I always let them, if it was a line of troops, I wouldn't let them fly over the troops. Mm-hmm. You come parallel to the troops, but I allowed the fighters to come in from each side. I don't want the guy coming down to shoot one after another, because they'll shoot him down. They'll get him. You know, you never duel with a gun. The gun's going to get you. Yeah. You want a guy coming in and another guy's rolling in up here. You know, so we got a thing going like this.
Well, okay.
And because if there was a fight going on, it's really important that you don't hit the friendlies.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You just cannot do that. And I don't think I ever did have a friendly hit. Although we, later at places, little garden spots like Dak Siang, we were dropping ordnance way inside of what was allowed. We did it anyway because there was no, you had to do it. It was life or death for the guys, our guys. So you had to come in there and, you know, so better keep your head down. I've got a great anecdote. I'll tell you if we talk about that. It's later in this little epic.
Did you fly? So after the FAC school, they gave you a plane. Did you fly alone, or did you always have an observer in the back?
Well, once you go to your unit, which in my case was Quinyon, you go up, and I was going to be assigned to fly for the Koreans, the Tiger Division. Mm-hmm. Koreans had several divisions in Vietnam, and I'm going to be working for the Rocks. So now I've gone through the FAC school, and now I'm going to get a local checkout, and then local instructors. Each unit has instructors. And I went up with our guys and got to see what the area was. And they'd give you some exercises, see how well you shot the rockets. What kind of pilot are you? We're going to do some landings and just see if you're really a good pilot, or you're just, you know.
Okay.
What kind of guy do we got here?
Yeah.
If you're no good, they're going to send you back.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah, they get rid of you. We got rid of one guy. One of our guys was out.
Okay.
Sent him home. So that was the only guy. I mean, it's not really difficult to land a Cessna. It's just not. And particularly if you're landing on a decent runway, the Quinyon runway was kind of like a bad, you would say a mediocre runway in Austria.
Okay.
Probably not that nice. Maybe, you know, not one that has cows walking around, but it's got there's fences, and it's just not perfectly groomed. It's had some serious use. The Air Force bases were, you know, it's like going to Las Vegas. What do you need? We've got that. We've got everything. We don't have a golf course, but we got everything else. It was, I was at they put me in Tiger Town, the Korean division base headquarters. And then I was assigned to one of the regiments, the cavalry regiment. So our area of operations was broken up into several parts. And the first regiment, and I forget the number of the one down at Miami Beach. We had the Cav. Miami Beach was down on the coast. They actually found an old ski boat, water ski boat, fixed that thing up and found a motor, and they would take it out and run it around when their time off. We didn't have anything like that at the Cab. It was just kind of a crummy little base with maybe 1,000-foot runway, that sort of thing, which I never used. They just used it for helicopters.
But the runway was gravel or concrete?
It was mud.
Mud. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just mud. Now Quignon was blacktop or sprayed oil on hard packed dirt or gravel.
Okay.
I don't remember. I think it was pretty. It was okay. It was fine.
Okay.
You didn't have to do any. It wasn't like you're landing out in the boondocks.
Okay.
Some special forces camp. Those runways could be very interesting.
Yeah.
But because it was just like landing on a dirt road. Dirt.
And after they checked you out, did you get a special area where you always flew in, or how was it?
I think we just were given, you're supposed to fly it, take off at dawn. You're going to be flying about 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah.
You only have about 3 hours and 15 minutes. You need to be back inside of the base inside of 3 hours just to be safe, because that's all the gas we had. So you coordinate with some other guys. Where are you going? I'm going up here. Okay, I'll go over here. We'll do this. There was no plan.
Mm-hmm.
If there was an operation the Koreans were doing, troops out in the boondocks, we'd go cover them. We'd have somebody there over them all the time. Always had somebody over the troops. And that, the time I spent with the Koreans was mostly very calm, because those guys didn't want to fight the Koreans.
Okay.
They did not want to mess with the Korean army. They were tough, and they just kicked ass. They kicked ass. They were very brutal, but in my mind, thinking back on it, so what? They did what they had to do.
It was their job. So, but your backseater was a Korean guy, because I think
we didn't have any. We didn't have any. What you ended up with the Koreans, because it was pretty calm. There weren't a lot of battles. You'd have one of your other buddies in the backseat getting flying time.
Okay.
We never carried a Korean-speaking guy.
Okay.
We took one of us and put him out in the field on the hilltop. And you talked like me. I was out there with my little, I sent you a picture of it. Got my little steel hat, my little, little tent. I'm out there, for 3, 4, 5 days, directing airstrikes from the ground.
Because this would have been my next question. How was the communication with the Koreans? But now I understand. Yeah.
We always had somebody on the ground in the field with the rocks. And there's some funny stories. I was on a mountaintop, and it's a bad day. And we had Korean pilots assigned to us. Major Chung was the premier guy I remember, because he was a formidable man. Let's say that. He was a very, very, very tough guy. And he liked me for some reason. He called me Lieutenant Crawford. Lieutenant Crawford, blah, 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 blah. So I'm out on mountaintop. Major Chung is there. My compatriot, now the Koreans are very military. It's very important not to lose face. So if we are the same rank, we can speak frankly together. Mm-hmm. If you are superior in rank to me, I must bow down and I have to tell you, I just can't let you lose face. But Eam and I are second lieutenants. same rank. The clouds are right down on the trees, right on the trees. We're up on them. Well, of course, you could get in the valleys. You're not going to put any airstrikes in. And Lieutenant Eam runs up to me, and he's got paper in his hand. Chung is right beside me, and he starts yelling, Lieutenant Crawford, we must have airstrike. We must have airstrike. Blah, 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 blah. He's going on and on and on. And I said, oh, Lieutenant Eam, the mountains are too high. The clouds are too low. We cannot have airstrike. He goes crazy. He got to have an airstrike. He's been told to get an airstrike. So he's going to try to get an airstrike. Major Chung goes, puts his hand on my arm and says, Lieutenant Crawford, I will handle this. He steps in front of me and barks out some Korean to Eam. Eam snaps to attention. Bolt like a parade ground soldier. Chung chews his butt in Korean. I don't know what he's saying. And then all of a sudden, Chung hauls off and hits him right in the face. Smashes him in the face, knocks him on his back. Blood is spurting all over the place. Eam jumps up, assumes attention again. Chung chews his ass even stronger and smashes him again in the face. Knocks him flat on his back. Now blood is everywhere. Eam jumps up, salutes, does an about face, and runs away. And I'm sitting there like, I can't believe it. I just saw this. Chung turns to me and says, Lieutenant Crawford, I have told him we cannot have airstrike. And that's how they were. That's the they had very tough discipline, very rough.
You spoke about this picture, I guess, sir.
Yeah. That was my tent. And you see the Jeep there.
Yeah.
Now I did a very stupid thing. Remember, I'm a young dumb bunny. I'm a lieutenant. Lieutenants do stupid things. I took red tape and I wrote on this portion of on the left side of the picture there, which is where the bad guys were. I wrote in red letters, big red letters. I wrote, Ho Chi Minh is queer on the roof of that tent, and stuck that up on the tent. And so everybody wanted to fly by and see the letters, and they did. Well, right, within a few hours of that, I'm sitting off to the side. We've moved the Jeep. It's where the camera is, and I'm cooking on a little stove, steak and eggs. Now, being an Air Force guy, I had cold beer flown in by chopper for us to, we had cold beer. I arranged that. And I wouldn't let the Army colonel next door have any beer because he was a jerk. But his enlisted man, I let have all the beer he wanted. So I cut the colonel off. I wouldn't even talk to him. He was a jerk. Anyway, I'm cooking steak and eggs, and the little Army guy says, the Koreans are shooting out. They're shooting out big mortars, the big 4.2 inch, great big jobs. And the little Army guy turns to me and yells, incoming, incoming. And I said, oh, you're nuts. That's outgoing. And we're on the top of a hill like this. We're up here. Right over here, there's this enormous explosion, a huge black cloud goes up in the air and stuff is whistling through the air. You can hear it. And all the dirt falls on us. And I made little dog chew toy squeaky noises and hit the ground. I got on the radio and started squealing like a little piggy for help. So in hindsight, putting that message on that tent was really stupid. Yeah. That was one of the dumber things I've done in my life. Why highlight yourself when these guys are really good?
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for them. Utmost respect for the bad guys. They were tough as nails, and they were very good. They were very good.
But in the area you were fighting, was this the regular North Vietnamese army, or was it the Viet Cong?
I think it was both. Mostly okay. the VC, the Viet Cong, had given up messing with the Koreans because they had been crushed pretty severely. The Koreans they were tough if they caught prisoners, they They were rough. I was driving out to the Cav one day, and we took about an hour to drive out through the countryside. And you go through the American section, then you go into the Korean section, and I come up to the bridge, a position. There's a little bridge there, and there's two dead people in the road, lying there on their backs. And that's when I realized how much blood is in two human beings, because the entire road is covered with dried blood. Okay. And I asked, what happened here? And the Koreans explained that the Koreans did not use lights on their positions. They sat in the darkness and got used to the light. So they could see these two guys coming. Well, one was a man, one was a woman, sneaking up on them. And they let them get right up close to the Claymore mines and then pickled the Claymores off in their face. They blew them up and then dragged them out on the road as a lesson for the others. So it was pretty rough. That's fairly harsh. But on the other hand, I got no problem with it.
Of course. And it was, it was their job, or?
Yeah.
But the Koreans were, they had their own leader, of course, but they were following the orders of the Air Force or Army or whatever.
They were in charge of this area, but they coordinated with the U.S. Army on their operations and where they were going to go and all that.
Okay.
That was above my pay grade. I just went out and flew around.
Yeah.
And put airstrikes in for them, if they needed it.
And because I had, I think, 7 or 8 Army gentlemen now, and they always told me, except one, Ralph McRae, that if they needed Air Force strikes, the Army bird dog pilots were not allowed to call in for Air Force strikes. They always had to talk to you as a forward air controller. So did you have in your area also Army bird dog pilots?
We did. We didn't in that area. I did not work with them very much. When I went to play coup, I didn't work with them very much. Now, then after Doc Siang and Doc Peck in April of 70, I went down to Bammy Tuit, and I worked with the Army pilots all the time.
Okay.
The Army bird dog guys, and I would take off, and we'd go out and we'd do a high-low. One guy on the down over the trees, another guy up here. And then we'd swap later on. I'd work with the Army helicopter gunships and observation helicopters. It was very, very, very close then. But when I worked for the Koreans, we really did very, very little. I don't remember ever working with an Army bird dog pilot in that area of operations when I was with the Koreans. We kind of did our own thing.
How long have you been together with the Koreans?
I was there from September till of 69, and I left in April of 70 because they were phasing out the O-1s. They were bringing in the O-2, the twin engine thing.
Yeah. And
they had a big roaring battle going on at the Special Forces camps of Doc Siang and Doc Peck. So we went up to play coup and in the bird dog and did that. That's I left. I no longer I kept my call sign, but I was no longer ever going to fly again as a Tumfac. I was kind of, we were like hired guns. They'd move us up there. Well, this is the first one that came in, the very first one. So we had 2 drinks, and Bernie Hale and I went over to got some stencil paper, and I drew that pig and cut it out, and I drew the lettering and cut it out, and we came down to the flight line, got a Jeep and came down to the flight line and sprayed that on the first airplane. And when the pilot saw this, he went absolutely Krakatoa. He just went nuts. He went bananas. It was the most wonderful thing to see him foaming at the mouth. Because we didn't think that airplane was as good as our airplane. It had some advantages, one of the worst things about it was they could hear it coming miles away.
Yeah, it was super loud.
Very loud. Very loud.
Yeah. So, but you kept continuing flying the bird dog?
Yes. Yes. Once I left Phuket, which was, it was really pretty nice. I mean, we were in a BOQ with 4 guys in a little tiny room, but we had air conditioning and it was nice. Then we went to Phu Pleiku for the Dak Siang thing, and there was no, there were no luxuries. There was no air conditioning. There was nothing. You're living with the special forces guys.
Okay.
And I worked with the Aussies quite a lot, and with the American special forces around Dak Siang and up at Dak Pek to fight that fight.
That's also a point. Many people don't know that there were not also the Koreans, but also the Australians were fighting in Vietnam. Yeah, and that there's also a bird dog pilot from Australia.
Well, the time I spent with the special forces, American and Aussie, because we lived right there with the Aussies, and they were just the best guys. American guys were the same way. I really loved working with the special forces, and they were very tough. A lot of hell raising was done. Massive amounts of alcohol were consumed, but it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Okay.
And the special forces troops were put in around Dak Siang to try to break the siege, because the NVA was trying to capture Dak Pek, which is up the river, and Dak Siang down the river. At the same time, they built a road right along the river under the trees no one knew about. And then they attacked, and so it was a close run thing. And we took a lot of casualties. They shot a lot of helicopters and airplanes down, but we eventually got to them pretty hard, and they pulled out. They didn't continue. But the Aussies, they have this accent. And I could tell what I mean. I have to use some bad language to say it like it was said, if that's okay. But I'm talking to a guy whose call sign is Kangaroo.
Okay.
And he is pinned down. He and his mates are pinned down by a 51 caliber machine gun, which is a very, very, very bad dude. That thing is a killer. And I can see the dust blast from the gun from up where I am. I can see it kicking up. So I get some fighters, coming. And I tell, the fighters are overhead now, 2 F-100s, great bombers. And I say to Kangaroo, look, I'm going to run them parallel to your line, but I need you to pop smoke to show your position so they can clearly tell where you are. And he says in this comical Aussie accent, he's not going to pop smoke, Tom. It'll give away our position. And I said, well, are you sure? He can't pop smoke. I said, well, you better keep your damn head down then. So I've coordinated. You could see the little green area they were in, and there was it looked somewhat like you could tell where the gun was. And the fighter guys could see the gun, the dust blast. They could see it too. And they're just yards away from the Aussies. They're inside 100 yards from the Australians. Yeah. And they're hosing them down. I mean, these things cut down big trees. So the guy comes in and he drops off, one's in hot, clear one. I've got them all briefed up. Everything's going to be okay. He drops nape, and he puts that nape down in front of the gun, and a tsunami of napalm rolls over the gun.
Oh.
And at that moment, and this is just yards away from the Aussies, at this moment, this panicked voice comes up in his comical Australian accent. And he says, "Crush, that was fucking close. It sends the air off me fucking eyebrows." I said, "I told you." You need to mark, and you should have seen the smoke coming up then. Man, they were popping smoke like it was the 4th of July. In hindsight, it's funny, but it was.
But even there, you flew alone. You still had no backseater.
No, just me.
Oh wow, okay.
Well, see, the tempo was from dawn till dark. We only had so many airplanes, and every airplane's in the air all the time. There's no one laying around that wants to go for a ride up at Dak Siang and maybe get shot by a 51 cal.
Well, it's interesting because
have a good flight. See ya.
See ya, yeah. Because there were still some guys who always had a native backseater, but this was more or less necessary when you fly for the Vietnamese. I think it was necessary for the communication. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Normally you're by yourself.
Okay.
Dak Siang is 55 miles from Pleiku, and you'd be up there a lot by yourself, getting dark. The gunship hasn't shown up yet. You want to stay over. As long as you stayed overhead, they weren't going to do anything. They weren't going to try to run the guys because they knew bad things would happen. But if you left, they might do something. And sometimes the gunship's late. I don't know why they're late. And you got to, you run one tank till it's empty, and then you switch to the other tank, and I got to go.
Yeah.
So now you're flying back, and you got very, very, very little gas in the one tank remaining, and you're thinking, "Oh, that was stupid. What was I thinking? God damn it, why did I do that?" And you fly all the way back, climb, level off, up high, lean it way back,
yeah,
stay at altitude till you get right over the base, and then spiral down. And it was all visual because we had only an ADF, and you could dial in the beacon at Pleiku, but it's Vietnam. There are big thunderstorms, so the needle's going whoop, 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 and you don't know where. You just knew the compass heading, and you'd fly that compass saying, it's going to be about an hour.
Okay.
45 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. But it's really dark. There's no lights down there, and nobody down there wants. They're not going to be nice to you if they get their hands on you. It's going to be bad.
How often did you fly in a day? 1 or 2 times? How often?
We generally flew every day.
Yes, but every day. But every day, once or twice or 3 times?
Usually just once.
Once, okay.
Yeah, usually once. It was that way with the Koreans. We flew. It was very rare to have a day off. You flew every day.
Okay.
And that was that way for the whole year. You always got an airplane up.
But what was your primary mission? Was it to support the ground troops for the operations, or did you also fly out finding enemies?
In the Korean section, when I was with the Koreans, we did all of that. We'd go out and look for people. We'd also support the troops. At Dak Siang, we didn't have to go look for the enemy. They were right there. Okay. They were there and in great numbers. They were pretty easy to find. So we didn't have to do much. All we had to do was show up, and you'd have some, it was a very, I don't know how many helicopters they shot down, but they shot a lot of them down. And the hill was just above the camp. It's called Nui Ek. Nui Ek. And a helicopter had gotten shot down and crash landed on the top of Nui Ek. And some Army Cobras came in to try to, suppress the bad guys who were on the top of the hill too. And they got shot down. They shot them both down. They shot down several more. And I'm sitting there listening to the Army guys because I'm waiting for, I got time. I'm there early a little bit. And I chimed in on the frequency. Would you guys like some TAC air? Yeah, we sure would. So I got on guard and said, any TAC, blah, blah, blah. check in with me on 255-2 or whatever. Well, two F-100s show up. They're on their way back to the base, and they have full loads of 20 millimeter cannon. Mm-hmm. And and I'm on the way. So they come down, start circling up there, and you can see the top of the hill. You can see the shot down chopper. The guys are still alive. They're popping purple smoke. And about 50 yards away, 60 yards away, there's what looked like a foundation of a building that had once been there. And that's where the bad guys that were holed up in this foundation. It's a little distance, but still pretty close. And I asked the guys, how are you guys, can you guys do high angle strafe, from a dive bomb pass? They said, oh yeah, absolutely, we could do that. Well, I said, you see that foundation there on the end, and you see the chopper. Just don't let any of your bullets get over there toward the chopper. No problem, fact. We'll do. So they both made passes, and you have to imagine I was up high, probably 3,000 or 4,000 feet, because of the 51 caliber machine gun problem. You need to be up about 4,000 feet at least, just to live. And here comes this guy, and he rolls over, and he comes down dive bomb pass. Later, I got to do that in the F-100, and it brought back memories. And this guy fires out his whole load of 20 millimeter. F-100 carries 1,200 rounds of 20 millimeter. That's an amazing amount of it, 20 millimeter. Most fighters carry 400 rounds. The Hun carried 1,200 rounds, had 4 cannons. And every one of his hits, you could see the foundation, this little square, like looking into a fudge pan, where they make the candy. It's a little recess, and all of a sudden you can see the explosions, and it goes on and on and on and on, and there's this big wham, big explosion. And I said, that'll do. Yeah, that'll do. Thank you. And they left. They said, we're leaving with very light airplanes. We're almost out of gas, but good job, fact. And they left. So then we tried to get them out with Jolly Greens, and it didn't work out so well. It just didn't work. It was not a good day for the good guys. We never got those guys out.
Okay.
Never did.
Oh, God. Okay.
It's very sad.
What kind of firepower could you handle? Was there artillery? Was there? I think in some areas they also used the New Jersey.
I directed. I took a Marine up once working with the Koreans, and they had a Navy cruiser offshore shooting its 8-inch rifled guns, and watching that big beast shoot was like watching an expert shoot a high-powered target rifle, because those guns shoot flat. They don't shoot shells that go like this. They go bang, straight line like a rifle. And those guns would roar, and the target would be hit, and it would explode. I mean, they were really good shots. And unfortunately, the Marine was not capable of. He got airsick. But being a Marine, he zipped up his flight suit, and he strapped in, and he would just throw up down in his flight suit and then zip it back up. I said, you're going to have to clean this airplane up, right? You don't get to throw up in my airplane. You're going to wash it. Okay, sir. Okay. You're damn right it's okay. I didn't think you Marines were that weak, man. Well, I haven't been doing anything. Come on, man up.
Yeah, but how did you fly? Did you also use those tactics? Never fly straight, never fly at the same level?
Well, with the Koreans, it wasn't so important. It was important. I like to get high and use my big binoculars, because in the Birddog, you trim it up. You just touch the rudder, just a little toe pressure on the rudder, and you have a bank and you have a circle. They can't even hear you. They don't even know you're up there.
You can fly hands-free. It's no problem.
And if I did an airstrike at Dak Siang, where it turned into night while we were there, and all I could do was throw the airplane around like a madman, because the guy on the ground said, they're shooting the shit out of you. I said, well, this sucks to be me. This is not good. But you're so busy, you really have not got time to be frightened because you're busy. You know, you're talking to the guy on the ground. Here comes the first fighter talking to the guy on the ground. How was that hit? Bring more. Here comes number two. You know, we always worked at, we usually had two ships show up. Normally, at Daxiang, that was a place where you wanted to keep the airplane moving, never go, because they had lots of 51 caliber machine guns, and they weren't shy of when a 51 caliber machine gun round goes by your airplane. Now, I've already discussed how the plastic ruler sound. A 51 caliber machine gun, I think that's what it was. Sounds like some big strong guy is standing outside the airplane and hitting the side of the airplane rapidly with a frying pan. It makes this big whang, whang, whang. But and as soon as you hear it, you know, you're throwing the airplane around like a monkey flying it, and you make little funny squeak dog chew toy squeaky noises on the radio. You make little high pitched squeaks. I think I think I squeaked out, "I'm hit" or something. And the fighter said, head for the camp back, we'll cover you. I said, I'm okay now. They missed. It was just close.
Did you fly with your windows open or?
Yeah. Now, when I was doing an airstrike, I put the windows down so I could write on them with a grease pencil.
With this grease pencil, yeah.
Yeah. We always had a grease pencil.
Okay.
And write on this window. Mission number, call sign, ordnance, time on target, all that stuff. Because you had to make a report.
Ah, okay. So later on, when you came back, you just write everything down that you have written before on the window. Okay.
Yes, and then clean it off.
But why did all of you guys use grease pencils to write on the screen? Why didn't you write on a paper on your leg?
Because it's easier just to do this because you're looking outside, you're flying. You can write, and it's a great big window.
Yeah, it's a big window.
You can just write up. I start up in the top left corner, right up there.
So this was the reason, because
it was the easiest way to do it.
Ah, okay.
Very simple. Now I got it off.
I will share now a picture you sent me, and so far as I saw, you had 8 marking rockets on your Birddog, Willie Pete's.
Yes.
Just give me a second.
We had 4 on one wing and 4 on the other.
Yeah, eight marking rockets. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you only use the white phosphorus, the Willie Pete's, or?
Oh yeah, we were not allowed to. We were only allowed to use the Willie Pete.
Willie Pete's, okay, yeah.
And in fact, the Willie Pete going off on the ground was something that would frighten the bad guys very much.
Yeah.
Because they know full well what that means. They know what's coming. And if it was just an explosive round, it just goes boom. Well, what's the big deal about that? No one can see that. But that Willie Pete is going to stay there for a while. And that means there's death coming pretty quick, or possible death coming. We also dropped grenades from out the window too, if you were out of rockets.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
If you a couple rules with grenades. I saw the picture that showed you have some hanging on a wire.
Yeah.
Are those real ones or are they dummies?
No, now they are dummies, yeah.
That's a real good idea, because that would be, you hold the grenade out, you've got fire, you have Nomex gloves, you stick the grenade out the window, you're holding the lever closed, you pull the pin and you throw it away. You're flying into the wind, you're leaning outside the window, you have your visor down, and you draw a line across the front tires. And when the front edge of that tire hits the target, you release the lever, shake it till it pops, and drop it. So I'm flying around with this is when I was with the Koreans. I see 4 people coming down a path. They're wearing black pajamas. One's got those big straw hats.
Yeah.
So I just turned toward them, and they immediately jumped into a big bamboo clump, about the size of a large gazebo, in a park, a round picnic park thing. I thought, well, that's not very big. I wonder why they jumped in there. There must be something to hide. And I thought, I could get a set of fighters up here and blow them to pieces. I don't really feel like killing anybody. I mean, what the heck? They're just walking. They didn't have weapons. They just jumped into bushes. Well, with good reason, probably, because a lot of their friends have been killed by guys like me. Oh, there's some bad guys. Boom. Well, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. We'll never know. Anyway, I thought I'll just drop a smoke grenade and see if I can scare them, just for fun. Now, I didn't give any thought to the idea of what a heavy smoke grenade falling from 1,500 feet would do to somebody. I just thought, well, this would be harmless. So I flew into the wind, held it out there. I did this thing, and I let that baby go. Are you a golfer?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't do this again with a bucket of balls. That I banked off and watched, and that white smoke, we had white grenades, that you could see the trail of falling down. It comes down out of the sky and goes right into the bushes. Absolutely the luckiest thing I ever did in my life. Couldn't do it again if I had to. And these guys must have thought, who is this guy up here? King Kong? We're hiding, and he put it right beside. And so they take off running up the path. I just let them go.
Okay.
I just let them go. There were 4 running up the path, so I didn't hit them. I thought, I don't feel like killing anybody. Yeah, what the heck? They're not carrying any weapons. Who knows what they're doing?
Yeah, yeah.
So I let them go. Well, we didn't allow anybody to get into an airplane with grenades. We lost a guy. He took a brand new Special Forces lieutenant up with him. He was a quiet guy, didn't mix much. He was just kind of there. Greg, I forget his last name, but he takes off with his second lieutenant in the back seat. And what we think happened was the lieutenant had been reading all these stories about dropping grenades out of bird dogs and blowing up the enemy like they're, going to change the war by him doing that. And we think he may have tried that and dropped the grenade in the airplane.
Oh.
Because he never came back. We never heard
of him. Yeah, okay.
Never heard anything. He just never showed back up. Never showed up. So that's what we were thinking. And I tried for a while. I got some Willie Pete hand grenades because I thought I could effect a rendezvous because I practiced with the Willie Pete's, very careful. It's an anti-personnel grenade that has white phosphorus. It's one of the most awful, fierce weapons that's ever been because that stuff gets on you and it won't go out.
Yeah.
You can't put it out.
Yeah. Anyway,
this thing falls, and I'm banking away, and when it goes off, it makes like a chrysanthemum in the sky. Looks like a big white flower. And I thought, well, that might help with fighters seeing. Then I thought, if you make one mistake with this thing, you're going to die. So I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to stick with what worked. So I bagged the idea I just totally bagged the idea of doing the, white phosphorus grenades. Now the Willie Pete rocket itself is a tremendous weapon. If you've ever been close and seen one go off, it makes a fireball that's quite impressive. And it's coming in supersonic. I mean, this thing is really moving.
Yeah.
And it's a ferocious weapon in its own accord.
Yeah.
But we got good at shooting rockets by shooting them. There was an old abandoned French fort, and we never brought rockets home. You never bring a rocket home. You always shoot all the rockets. And with that switch system you have up there on your bird dog, so you arm it, you arm the panel, and then you raise one, and you pull the toggle switch, and then you pull the trigger, and it's supposed to go. Well, sometimes.
Do you see my picture here? Did you have 4 switches up there, or like that, or the ones that I have?
I think we had 8.
You had 8 like I have. Oh, okay.
I think we had 8.
This is the big difference between the Army and the Air Force, because the Army, they had the drop panel with only 4, and the Air Force had this one that I have here with 8.
Yeah, well, sometimes you'd arm one, squeeze the trigger, nothing. You go, ah.
Oh,
so you arm the next one. You squeeze it, nothing. You go, God almighty, blankety, blank, blank, blank. You arm the next one, and you pull the trigger, and they all go off. So 4 of them go whooshing down there. Okay. And the fighters would say, which one do you want us to hit? I said, there's nothing down there but monkeys anyway, probably. Just pick one and bomb it. One's as good as any other. We don't really know what's down there.
I will share some pictures now.
Ah. Oh, my.
How old are you here? 20?
20, probably 22.
22?
Yeah.
Amazing. And your weapon beside this is it a revolver, or what is it?
It's a K-38 Smith & Wesson combat masterpiece. It is a revolver, 6 shots.
Interesting. Okay, I always thought that you are using a 1911. Yeah.
No, the Air Force used those revolvers.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
We used them. We used them for all the years I was in the Guard. We had to qualify every year with that pistol. You know, go down and qualify. You know, shoot on the range, and qualify.
So, but you're not wearing a flak vest here. Did you ever?
Say again?
Did you ever wear a flak vest or not?
I'm wearing a survival vest.
Yeah.
Right under my right hand is a radio. There's batteries. There's pockets all over the place.
Yeah.
I've got all kinds of things stuffed in there. Extra bullets, an extra battery. That's what we wore to fly.
So, but okay, because there was another interview I've heard, and they were telling that they always tried to get flak vests, the biggest size possible, and in the Birddog, they didn't wear it; they sat on it.
Oh, we didn't have any of that. We just had a little seat like in a light airplane, tubular frame. You know, you could stick a screwdriver through the thing. Then later they started putting armored seats on the dogs. Yeah. But that was later. Initially, we just sat in this. It was actually very comfortable, but you know, I didn't have anything to sit on.
And you said your gloves were Nomex. Your flight suit, was it also Nomex?
No, the flight suits initially were cotton. And it wasn't until about halfway through my tour that we got Nomex. Now these gloves are they're probably Nomex.
Yeah.
They probably are leather. They're really high quality gloves. But those cotton flight suits, Mama-san would beat them on the shower floor. You paid these ladies to wash your clothes, and they would beat on the, and so they got so light and thin. I mean, if a flame had got near it, you'd have gone up like the Hindenburg. But they were comfortable to wear.
Oh my God! Okay.
But oh yeah, well look at this. Look at this guy. Good God.
Amazing, yeah. Yes, so young, yeah.
The upper antenna is in a bowl, so you can leave the upper antenna on, and the fighters can see you, but the people on the ground cannot see the light.
Ah, this one here. Yeah, okay. It's a kind of beacon, or what is it?
It's an anti-collision beacon.
Ah, okay.
The red anti-collision beacon. You have one on top and one on the bottom.
This is the first time I see it, you know? That's interesting. Okay.
And that antenna for the radio antenna on the top of the wing.
Yeah.
Now our red line on the airplane was like 150 knots, something like that.
Yeah.
And if you dove down to 150 knots, which I have done many times, that antenna is almost flat.
You've really done a 150 knots dive with the Birddog. Insane.
I think it might have been 156. I'm not sure.
Wow.
It was pretty fast. Now we normally flew around at 70, 75 knots.
Yeah. Oh, that's fast. That's really fast. Amazing. This is another picture you sent me. It's very well known because I think every bird dog pilot knows this picture.
I think the guy in the back seat shooting the bird. I just
Yeah,
noticed.
looks like.
Looks like he's extended his middle finger, I think. It was a wonderful little airplane. Very tough. It would bring you home. Well, on your the one thing you must check on the pre-flight, they really, the oil cap, add oil to the engine.
Yeah.
Had a hole drilled in it, so a big cotter pin could be shoved through that.
Yes,
so
sir.
It could not come off. Now the guy on the left is Bernie Hale. He's my brother from another mother, and
okay.
He unfortunately got early onset dementia and has died. But Bernie Hale and I were just like two brothers. I mean, it's astonishing. I was only around him for 4 or 5 months, but he was my best friend. I just loved the guy. Great guy.
Great guy. Okay.
Yeah.
But is he already wearing Nomex because the color is different?
No, that's one of the old style cotton flight suits.
Okay.
When we first got Nomex, I'm in Bambi to it by this time, and we didn't have any way we didn't have any patches, so they give us these flight suits and we got nothing to put on them. We don't have any, we're with the Army. We don't have any rank. We got nothing. So we just wore the flight suits. And one of my friends, Dick Tucker, you should talk to Tucker. He's a character. Dick Tucker goes to Cameron Bay, and he's a great big guy. He's a big guy. And he's walking by some lieutenants who just showed up. And he could hear one of them saying, now this great big man is walking by all these brand new lieutenants, and he's wearing a flight suit with no patches, no rank, no nothing. And as he walks by these guys, he hears one of them say to the other ones, I don't know, but I think he must be with the CIA. Yeah, pretty good.
That's interesting because the Army guys, they all had those cool patches.
Well, we didn't. We had a little patch. Jungle fighter pilots, Tumfax, jungle fighter pilot. Major Chung said, Tumfax, we are jungle fighter pilots. And we all thought that was pretty cool. So I drew a little patch and we had them made. I'll try to get you a picture of that. I'll get you a picture of it.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's very crude, but we were everything about our operation was crude. It wasn't fancy in any way.
Here in this picture, you were always flying with a helmet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I know from the interviews with the Army gentlemen, they were officially not allowed to have their sleeves up. So they always had to fly with their sleeves down. Was there the same thing with the Air Force?
Well, they always told you, you got to roll your sleeves down. And then later in my life, when I flew fighters, I flew with my sleeves down. I had my flight suit zipped up. Okay. Everything in case I had to jump out.
Yeah, of course.
In Vietnam, it's so hot. Now, I got used to, this is how I wore my flight suit. So I came back from Vietnam and I'm going to be a T-37 instructor. And I'm at the base. I'm in the officers club having lunch. And I just got on the base. I haven't been anywhere else. Just showed up in Big Spring, having lunch, and I see the wing commander. He's right over there. He gets up, and I see him turn and see me, and he walks over to my table. And I think, this is how naive I was. I thought, well, that's the wing commander. He probably knows I just showed up on base, and he's going to welcome me to the base. That's probably what he's going to do. No, that's not quite what he had in mind. The wing commander comes over to me and says, son, he said, you've got your sleeves rolled up on your flight suit. Roll those sleeves down. We don't wear our sleeves rolled up here at Webb Air Force Base. I said, oh, yes, sir. Roll my sleeves down. Colonel walks out the door. I roll my sleeves right back up. But
Of course.
I don't give a damn what you think, Colonel. I'm going to do what I want. You can't watch me 24/7. And that's
And
when
I expect
you know,
all the other guys also did the same, or
everybody rolled their sleeves.
yeah, yeah.
Now, if you were flying and you didn't roll your sleeves down, you were crazy. You could have a flash fire. I mean, the Nomex works. It does work. I kept my collar up when I flew fighters, had this zipped up helmet, gloves. I didn't mess around. I always dressed like I was going to have to jump out that day. This might be the day. When I was a Delta pilot and taken off, in an MD-11 that weighs almost 500,000 pounds out of Japan, I would say, okay, this will be the day I might have to abort this airplane. What am I going to do? Going to go boom, boom, boom. You got that, Dohrman? Yeah, that boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's go. I'm ready. I did it on every takeoff with Delta Airlines. Okay. This might be the one I lose an engine. What are you going to do, Ace? What are you going to do? Because it's too late to go, what? No, you need to know. You need to know. So I always tried to practice that.
Yeah, but that makes it a very good pilot because you're always 1, 2, or 3 steps ahead.
Well, that helps.
Yeah, just in case something happens. Yeah,
just in case.
Yeah,
just in case.
You sent me. You're also an artist. I was very surprised because I really like the picture, the drawing.
So, I like to draw and paint.
It's.
I'm kind of a hack. That's just a pen and ink sketch I did.
That's so cool.
That's kind of like it looked at Quinyon, with the ocean out there and the fields, these little jagged hills, and then as you came back toward where your observer is, back into the picture, away from the ocean, you get into really massive karst. Nice. I just did that. I did that for I drew a picture of the bird dog for my friend Bernie, and made prints and we went to his celebration of life after he died in Montana, and I took a dozen or so prints of a picture like that I painted for him, and passed them out to his family because he was such a wonderful guy.
Oh, that's really, nice memories.
Well, you couldn't ask for a better friend than Bernie Hale.
Yeah,
you just couldn't. And we got into some outrageous things, and we got away every single time. We never laid a glove on us.
Is there a great story, or is there a special moment, a very emotional moment, or a very dangerous moment, whatever you want? Was there the one mission you still remember today?
Oh yeah, I do. We were I was up at Dak Siang, and I'm talking to the guy on the ground, and they get attacked because the bad guys know I can only be up there about 2 hours. So now it's getting dark, and these guys are starting to get probed. So I call up for some fighters, and it's going to take about 20 minutes for them to get there. And in the meantime, now this is the valley. Can you imagine looking at your kitchen sink? Okay, but it's big. It's really big.
Okay.
And the walls are hills, and the camp is in the middle, kind of where the drain is. Over by the far wall, there's a big river. There's a river that goes north up to Dak Pek, and on the left wall, there's a hill called Nuiek that overlooks the camp. The camp's got a little runway. It's covered with shot down helicopters. There's just probably 20 there. 20 of them shot down, a whole bunch of them. And so it's starting to get dark. The clouds are right down on top of the hills. Really bad. Clouds go up the hills go up to like 2,000 feet or something like that. And I'm flying around. They got bad guns there, so I'm just trying to, stay out of the way and get the fighters here because these guys are going to come from the river part, the far side. and they start a big push, big attack, and fighters aren't there yet. So the guys call in artillery from Dak To, which is like 5 miles down the road, another fire base, and they're shooting artillery into the area that the NVA are coming from. So I'm staying out of the way, and the artillery sitting all around, just on the other side of the friendlies lines. And the fighters show up, and I get them to come up here. Now that we're all flying around under the clouds, getting dark, and I explain the situation. I have a couple rockets left, so I could mark a target. And I asked the Charlie Deuce. His call sign was Charlie Deuce. I said, we're ready to bomb, and these guys are briefed. We're going to do good work. We're going to salvo the hard bombs off in the trees because they're too big to be dropping close, and maybe that's where these guys are forming up. So we'll drop all the hard bombs over there, and then we'll use nape and strafe on these guys pushing you hard. I said, but you got to call the artillery off. And he said, we can't call the artillery off. If we call the artillery off, they're going to overrun us like a wave. I said, oh, shit. So I talked to the fighters, and I said, hey, we got a problem here. These guys can't turn the artillery off. And you can see the shells impacting. Yellow flash. So it's just, they're raining shells. I said, guys, we only got one chance. Now, I'm willing to do this if you are. Shells are small, the sky is big. I'll mark the target, we'll put the strike in, and hope for the best. Because these guys are going to they're going to get killed if we don't do something. They said, we'll do it.
Wow. So
we put the airstrike in where the artillery is raining down, and I'm over the friendlies, right over because I don't want to get too far away. I got to be able to see because it's getting dark. And he said, man, they are shooting the shit out of you. And I'm moving the airplane around, and I never took a hit. And he said we stopped the attack. And napalm did, and strafe, they made all the while they're already still coming in. And we got the hell out of there, and nobody got scratched. Nobody even lost a fingernail. Wow. So I flew home thinking, boy, that was pretty outrageous, pretty wild. It was intense for a little bit.
That's why we bird dog pilots today say that you guys must have had balls made of steel.
You're too busy to get scared.
Are you really?
You got things to do.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and whimper. You got to get this done because these guys' lives depend on it.
Yeah, of course. But I'm always asking, maybe it was because you were also so young. Because when you are older and you have more experience in life, I think you would be scared, to be honest.
I would not be a good fact now. I'm too old. I'll be 78 here in a month or two.
Yeah.
I'm almost 80. And I'm not like those old guys like Charlie Finch. I'm a pup. But Charlie's an old dog. I'm not. Not yet. But I was often very reckless, really did stupid things. I mean, at one point, I thought it would be fun to show off for the fighters they want me to put in a mark, so I would dive down and pull up into a loop and shoot the rocket out of a loop. So I did that. I did that, but what I failed to realize was every time I did a loop, I get lower.
Yeah.
And I came around and did one, and I'm right down there looking at the monkeys in the trees. I said, this is not going to work. I climbed up. I never did it again. Never did that again. You do reckless things, and some of us just helling around.
Yeah.
I'm flying in the area with the Koreans. I'm flying a mission with Dave Rogers, Captain Rogers. He was our mentor. He kept us alive. He taught us a lot. He just recently passed away from a stroke. but he could have been the chief of staff of the American Air Force. He was a guy like Robin Olds. That's the kind of guy he was. He was a leader. When he walked into the room, you just went, "That's the guy." You knew it. You knew it. He didn't have to say a word. So we're screwing around, We spent a couple hours looking for the bat, nothing. So now we're just looking around on the shore, going up and down the shoreline, looking for anything of interest. And I said to Dave, because the ocean's right there, there's a peninsula that goes out, like your left arm sticking out, and your hand is curved at the end, just like that. And we are where my head is. I said, Dave, how far do you think one of these rockets will go? He said, beats the shit out of me. I have no idea. I said, well, hell, let's get rid of some of them. Let's see how far they go. He said, that's a great idea. There's nobody around, no human beings around. There's no boats, nothing. No one's around. So I dove the airplane down to get a lot of speed, about 150 knots, amazingly enough. And I pulled the nose up to 45 degrees, which I could easily do because I'm going so fast. And armed a rocket, and I pulled the trigger, and I went, and I got down, and now we kind of turned a little bit so we could both see, and we're waiting. We're waiting. Nothing's happening. Well, you think it was a dud? Nothing's happened. Long time goes by. In the meantime, out on the point, a C-123 comes around. He's following the coast, and it's been so long in the air. This is a long time. Here comes this C-123 down the coast. And I'm thinking, oh no, that rocket still hasn't hit yet. Oh shit. So about a mile, finally, I don't know how high it went. It went way up. Maybe it went up 10. Who knows? Goes supersonic. Goes a long way. It was way out there, probably 5 or 6 miles, 4 or 5 miles. I don't know. But all of a sudden, about a mile in front of the C-123, this white puff on the ocean goes, and this airplane dives down and starts circling the smoke. I said, let's get the hell out of here, Dave.
Yeah.
We turned and fled through the passes back into the boondocks and got out of there. But I've often wondered, what those guys thought when a mile or so above in front of them, the hell was that? They put down their coffee cups. They're looking. What was that? Somebody shooting at? No, that's Willie Pete. Anyway, we did stupid things like that, and there was a lot of alcoholic abuse. I will say, seemed like the thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, beers are 10 cents and mixed drinks are 40 cents. So there you go. They asked me to be in the Raven program, be a Raven fact.
Oh, really? Yeah.
In Laos. I said, oh, you'd be great. You'd be great. You'd get a gold bracelet. No. I said, screw you. Why the hell would I want to do that? Take a hike, man. Don't ever ask me again. I'm going home.
Yeah.
I just got married before I came over here. I'm going home. I'm not going back. I'm not going to go. To hell with it. What are we doing this for? As it turned out, we did it for nothing.
More or less, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm kind of I just thought I don't want to be a Raven fact. That doesn't sound like a good idea for me.
How was it about your feelings over there? Because I was honestly very surprised when I heard from the other pilots that it was not about holding a territory and fighting the enemy back. It was more or less just body counts, yeah?
You just did your job trying to do good for or maybe help a friend out, put in help with the guys out on the ground. I never worried about body counts. If they happen, they happen. I got 60 kBA with one napalm bomb when they were trying to take over Doc Peck. They had captured part of the camp and were hosing the friendlies down big time. And I got some F4s up overhead, and the guy's call sign was Pineapple. I met him he got shot. I found him in the hospital afterwards. He was a Hawaiian American. So his call sign was Pineapple. And and the F4s come overhead, and the guy who dropped the bomb, his name was, I think he was a major. His name was Lowell Rexroad. He might have been a lieutenant colonel. He was shot down and killed later. But in this day, he put a can of nape right into the trench. The can of nape hit down in the trench, and that napalm went down that trench like a particularly horrible tsunami.
Oh,
And
okay.
as soon as that thing went off, Pineapple yelled, "That's enough! That's enough! Call it off! Call it off! We're going in!" And they jumped up and ran in there, and they gave 60 kBA, 60 kill by air. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, put 60 marks down on a piece of paper. You'd be surprised how many marks there are.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So that was, I wasn't worried about. I didn't have any deep thoughts. I just did my job.
Okay.
Every day you get up, go do it again.
Yeah. The question was more or less because wasn't it frustrating to fight back the enemy day and day and day again, day after day again at the same area without pushing them back and holding the area?
Well, every time we got into a big battle with them, we crushed them. Pretty much in my experience, we did every time, just destroyed them. But there were not that many big battles that I was part of, and mostly it's just we didn't have. My estimation is we did not have the political leadership or the will to hit them hard enough to stop it, and we could have done it easily. I don't want to talk politics, but don't get me started about.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. Many other Birddog pilots think exactly the same way. I cut those parts always out from the interview, but they say it was the politicians lost the war, not the soldiers.
That's what I feel.
Is there anything else you want to tell me about your time in Vietnam, or shall we continue with your life after Vietnam?
Oh, that pretty much covers it. I'm glad I got to help some guys out. I got asked to come to the U.S. Special Forces guys were coming out of the field, and they were going to be at Kon Tum, which is not far from Dak Siang. And so Hal Hornberg and I flew up there in two different airplanes. Maybe it was just one. I don't know. And we made it to Kon Tum. And we go to the Special Forces team house. And we walk in, and we're in flight suits, obviously. And this American guy, he was from Philadelphia. And his call sign was Big Mac. Big Mac, he's got this comical, he sounded like Rocky Balboa in the movie, Rocky.
Yeah.
Rocky talked. That's how this guy talked. He said, "Which one of you guys is Tum 25?" I said, "That's me." Oh, he grabbed, "Oh, you saved our ass." They gave us drinks. They gave me a rifle. They took off one of my KIAs. It had napalm burns on the stock. And he said he wouldn't be needed anymore. And I wish I could have figured out some way to bring that home. But I couldn't do it legally, so I didn't do it.
Okay.
But that kind of feeling made anything worthwhile. Because you really made a difference. At least sometimes. Sometimes everything fell on its ass, and nobody got saved. But most of the time, we could do it.
Before we get to your career as a fighter pilot, what are your thoughts about your service in Vietnam today? Charlie said, for example, it was the best time of his life, because he was super excited. And that covers more or less the opinion of many Birddog pilots over there. Did you have the same feelings?
I feel like at the time I'm still proud that we were able to do good work. But to me, I'm very cynical, and I just see it as a horrible mess caused by weak men who are more than willing to spend the lives of young men in their country just for their own little swollen egos. And I want a leader who is willing to If you want to get into a fight, I'm going to just knock the shit out of you. You will never get over what I'm going to do to you. That's the way I think.
Yeah.
That's the way it ought to be. The Romans said, si vis pacem para bellum. If you wish peace, prepare for war.
It's true.
I think it's all true.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in a way, it's much like the Iraq and Afghanistan 20-year thing. Why did we send all those guys over there for nothing?
Yeah.
If you're going to win, if you're not going to win, get the hell out of there. Why are you getting these guys killed?
Yeah.
These are guys who'll never get. I have 9 friends that got killed that I have on a wall back there in my room back there.
Yeah.
And they never got a chance to grow up and be granddads. Why?
Why?
I mean, there's a war, I get it. But why didn't we, let's stop. Let's just bring out the sledgehammers. If you want to fight, okay, I'm going to swing this, and that's what you got to swing. So if you're smart, you'll stop right now, because I'm not going to stop.
You ended your career flying the Birddog in Vietnam in which month and year?
I got to go home 23 days early. Mm-hmm. They told me you can leave. We're drawing down. You can leave as soon as you can get a ride.
Okay.
So now I have to out process. And I'm going around to all the places, and I go to the medical place, mm-hmm. and the young one striper says, "Let me see your shot record, sir." I said, "Here." He said, "Put your arm out." So I put my arm out, and all of a sudden he goes, bam, and he nails my arm with this needle. I said, "Ow, why did you do that? What the hell's, what's going on here?" He said, "You have to have a TB test before we can let you go home."
Oh, okay.
I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, how long is it going to take?" He said, 4 or 5 days.
Oh. I
said, "Okay, thank you very much." So I walk out of the place. I take my yellow form, and I looked at his name tag, and I signed myself. I signed his name in the block, and I checked it. And I said, "If I get TB, I'll go to a doctor. I don't think I will. I'm just going to go home. Screw these guys." And I never showed back up. I never did. I just went home. Yeah. I slept on the concrete floor for 3 days and got a ride out. And that was the end of that. We landed in Hawaii at 7 a.m, something like that. We rushed off the plane, and we drank alcohol as fast and hard as we could till the plane left. As much as we could shove down, we shoved down, because all we wanted to do was pass out and wake up when we're landing in Seattle.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
Just a question about when you came home, when you landed in Seattle, any kind of people arguing with you, protests?
Yeah, I had people say, I don't remember too much. I remember, some remarks from people, but I wasn't in the mood to be hectored by anybody. I don't recall. The thing that really hurt me was someone I came back, and some of my friends from childhood kind of got in my face a little bit. And I thought, I don't need this. I don't need to. I forgave them after a while, but took me a while.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't feel like I was a criminal.
No, you did your job. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I came back and took 30 days leave and drove around the country. We had a Fiat 124 Spider convertible. Drove all over the place and went out to West Texas.
But you always stayed in the Air Force, yeah?
Well, I liked the Air Force. I was going to stay. I was going to make it a career. Then every time I saw all the guys that really took care of us, the men, the officers who took care of us, every one of them got screwed to a man. And I thought, these guys are really good men. They're taking care of us, and they're getting passed over. And then see, I was considered, well, you're one of the boys, Crawford. You're really good. You're really good. We want you to stay and be a colonel someday, all this stuff. And I got assigned to follow the colonels around. I'd go with the colonel for a week and watch what colonels did, full colonel. And I thought, this guy's one of the biggest phonies I ever met in my life. The colonel. One of the colonels was really great. The other guy's a total phony. And I thought, well, let's just see what happens, because they promised me a fighter. I could fly fighters.
Okay. Yeah.
And then when the assignment came up, they said, well, things have changed. So what do you mean? I said, well, we got too many pilots. And what we think will be a good career choice for you is to go be in a missile silo. And I said,
come on.
Excuse me? Missile silo?
Yeah.
Really? They said, well, you could get a master's degree down there. I said, look at me. Do I look like someone who would ever give a rat's ass about a master's degree? I don't need a master's degree. I want to fly airplanes. So I put my papers in and got out. And I wrote to every airline that I could think of in the world. My wife typed them up. I had a book of letters like this.
Okay.
And all of them said, forget it. One airline said, come to Atlanta for a interview.
Yeah.
So I put my papers in. I'm getting out. They fired me from my position as a class commander. I was in charge of a class. I was the guy, and I had to go back to be a regular buck IP, plain old IP, no more. So that was actually good. Just fly with the students. That's all I did. No extra duties, because I was considered to be a traitor. One guy said, you haven't got any guts. And I thought, I don't think you were looking at this the way I'm looking at it. Yeah. I'm looking out for my family. And I went to my Delta interview, and the last guy, I only had about 1,500 hours of flying time. All of it was in Cessna Birddogs, and T-37s and pilot training. That's all I got. 1,500 hours. And I thought, and I'm in this big room with this massive amount of guys, and I'm thinking, well, I don't have any flying time. These guys all have thousands of hours. Thousands. And it turned out they hired 2 or 3 of us from that big room.
Oh, okay.
That's all they hired. All those guys.
Interesting, because Charlie Finch came back from Vietnam, and then he went to Fort Rucker as a flight instructor, and then direct to Delta.
Yeah. Well, I was working as an instructor, and then I got called for the interview, and I went to do that, and it went well. I thought it was, I thought this was just. The guy asked me, what would I do for my community if we put you in Chicago, like you said you'd like to be in Chicago? I said, I'd work with Boy Scouts, because I love the Boy Scouts. That was one of the big things in my childhood, was being in the Scouts. And I loved it. We did canoe trips and all kinds of stuff. I loved the Scouts. And he said,
I'm a Scout as well, sir.
He said, what rank did you achieve in the Scouts? I said, well, I was an Eagle Scout. And he said, and it turned out he was a Scoutmaster. And not only that, his 2 sons were getting their Eagle badges next week. So I thought, I might have just aced this interview. And it turned out I did. So we left the Air Force. We were driving, my wife and I are a dog, Charlie Dog and Sue and I are driving out in our Renault 16. I had a Renault 16 in West Texas. Ugliest car. Said that thing was so comfortable. Anyway, we broke down outside of Dallas. And I'm thinking, this is not so good. This is not turning out too well. I don't have that much money. I'm broken down. I haven't heard from Delta. Well, we got towed into Dallas. My sister-in-law lived there with her husband, so we got with them. And after a day or so, I got the nerve up to call Delta. I said, I was interviewed, and I've been on the road. Haven't gotten any mail or any, nothing. And I was just hoping to find out how, if what you guys thought of my, how did I do? She's just a minute, sir, in this little Southern voice. And she came back and said, we put you in the Morse 19th class, sir. I said, really? I said, would you just say that to me one more time so I can hear it again? And she did. And I thought, well, Crawford, you're a lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah, fantastic.
Made it. And I was there 31 years. And then I took a month off after retirement and came back as an instructor and check pilot for 13. So I was there a long time.
So, but you also flew for the Air National Guard, or?
Yes, initially I got into the Battle Creek, Michigan, the Michigan Guard, flying the O-2.
Because you sent me quite some pictures of jets.
Yeah, I don't have a picture of the O-2. I don't have one.
You also flew the O-2 there. Yeah, okay.
I flew that for a year.
Yeah.
And while I was doing that, that's a Connecticut airplane there. I talked my way into the New Orleans unit where I lived. And I don't know how I guess I hit it off with the people that needed to convince. And I was there 14 years. That's a great airplane.
But just from my understanding, you ended after Vietnam your career. Then you went to Delta.
Yes,
they took you at Delta, and how did you get into the F-15 then? It was at the same time you were flying for Delta.
Yes, I didn't. I got in with the Guard after I did my training with Delta. Pretty much, I don't remember the details, but I went to Michigan because they had just been given the O-2 and nobody wanted to fly it. So I showed up as a guy who'd been a FAC in Vietnam, and I was there a tenth of a second, and they hired me. And I flew that thing for a year, and after drill, I would fly it back to New Orleans from Battle Creek, Michigan.
Okay.
They wanted to put flying time on the airplanes. No one would fly them. They didn't enjoy it, but I would take one and fly back and forth. And in the meantime, I put myself at the disposal of the Louisiana Air Guard guys to go look for hunting and fishing spots. So I'd put guys in the O-2 and we go fly around. And that's how I met some of the guys. I got into the unit when they still had F-100s. And I guess after that, they couldn't get rid of me. I loved it. And that was in New Orleans where I lived. So I flew the F-100 for 6 years. I flew the F-4 Phantom for 6 years. And then I flew the Eagle for about 2.
You just have to describe me because honestly, I have no idea what the Louisiana Air Guard means. Because for me, as a guy from Europe, I know there's the Air Force, there's the Army, the Navy, and Marines. And what is the mission of the Air Guard? I always thought they are just making rescue missions and so on. What are those guys doing?
The National Guard is sort of an official militia. During times of peace, they are under the direct control of the governor of that state.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, if there's a big war, the Guard is federalized and they belong to the Air Force or the Army, that sort of thing. So the Air National Guard is I didn't know anything about it. I didn't understand it myself when I was in the Air Force. The Air National Guard is one of the best deals the country has ever gotten because all these really experienced pilots get out of the Air Force and get in the guard. So in our unit, we had many guys with thousands of hours of fighter time and really good pilots. And particularly once we got into the F4, we would take a traveling roadshow around and go fight people. We would fly in F-100s, and they were flying F-4s or F-15s. And we had really good pilots. Now, I was one of the guys they gave a movie ticket to and made me go to the movies while they were fighting these other guys. You know, they locked me in a closet. So I didn't fly, but I'm kidding, of course. But we would go anywhere and fight anybody.
Okay. And
we beat them an amazing amount of time. We fought. We were quite good. And the other thing that was, they underestimated us because we were Air National Guard, and we're flying old airplanes that were made when I was 7 years old. Well, an old pistol is still a deadly pistol.
Yes, sir.
An old sword can kill you just as good as anything else. And if you know how to swing that sword, you better watch out. If you're fighting a guy who knows how to swing that sword, might be an old sword, maybe he's good. We were called the Coon-ass militia. Coon-ass is a term that was used as a derogatory term by people talking about Cajuns. Cajun is a term that comes back from when the British kicked all those people out of Acadia.
Oh, okay.
The French and Indian War in the 70s.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
So they would describe themselves as Cadien. Je suis un Cadien. I'm an Acadian. Well, to an American, Cadien got corrupted to Cajun.
Okay.
That's where Cajun comes from. And they settled all along the South. Well, and people would call these poor people living out in the swamp coon-asses.
Mm.
Well, it kind of became a term of pride. And once we started going out and fighting people, we started getting a reputation for ourselves. And this is going to sound like I guess I am bragging, but we were famous. We were very well known. And once we got the F4, everybody knew who we were.
Okay.
Because we fought all comers. And we beat there were two F4 units in the world. The F-15 the F-15's in service. The F-4 is now a bomber, pretty much. Well, there were two units in the whole world that had an air-to-air fighting assignment.
Wow.
One was a unit in Germany, and the other one was us.
Okay.
And we were damn good. And it was fun rubbing their noses in it. Someone finding a better airplane. Go out there and use treachery. We use treachery. We use trickery.
But from my understanding, so each state had their own national guard.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. But in case of war, you were under the command of the Air Force.
If we're federalized, if there's a war, we could be federalized and brought into the Air Force and treated just like an Air Force unit.
Okay. Okay. So all members from the National Guard came from the Air Force?
In most cases. So we had one guy, Eric McDonald, who had been a Army helicopter pilot in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. He became an Air Force pilot, and he transferred to the Air Force, and he was on a unit for years.
Okay.
Super. We had guys who flew they didn't all fly fighters. I mean, I'd never flown a fighter.
Yeah.
And I did okay. I did.
I will share some pictures here you sent me, because for me this is also totally new, because I thought after Vietnam you stayed in the Air Force and made your career, but you did this all beside flying for Delta, and that's amazing. Yeah.
It was a good career choice.
What's this picture about, the Russian bear?
Well, we were flying out of Iceland. And I did not go on this trip. I went elk hunting instead. I said, I'm not going to Iceland. I'm not going to be able to go, boys. I didn't want to go to Iceland, but they were up there and intercepted these bears all the time. And later in the F-15, we did the same thing. Went to Iceland. I went on that trip. And the Air Force, and you can see this airplane's got AIM-7 missiles on it. You can see the fins.
Yeah.
Those are real missiles. And you go out and intercept these guys. Our checkered flag tasking was to, the reason we were in Iceland is that's where we were going to go in case there was a war. Our job was to keep Iceland operating by knocking down anyone that came out and tried to bomb or cruise missiles against Iceland or the U.S. Navy. So our job was to protect the Navy, pretty much.
Okay.
And that brought it up an interesting point when we were told we were going to be the first F-15 squadron in the Air National Guard. This brought all sorts of headaches. I mean, heads were exploding. The coon asses are going to get the F-15. God, blankety blank, 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 blank. A lot of these people didn't like us. So they decided they would.
But just because they were envy, or?
Yeah, and we kicked their butts too, a lot of time. So they're giving us training airplanes that have bad canopies, no raw gears, no advanced radios. Oh, there's the old boy. Oh, geez.
That's the T-38, or?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, beautiful plane.
I pretty much thought I was the hottest thing in the world at that moment. I thought I was pretty cool. I was wrong, but that's the way I thought.
Yeah, but you look like a winner.
Thank you. It was a good time to be alive.
This was one of your planes?
Yes, and we had to paint it up in these colors because we were going to be the Russians at Red Flag.
Ah, okay.
That's why. I forget what I was saying. Don't know where I was.
Because you got the F-15s and those guys were envy about it.
They were sending us junk.
Yeah.
So our project officer, that's me at the end, very end. The old colonel, lieutenant colonel. Anyway, at the end, we're getting junk airplanes, and we're not going to be able to be combat ready. These are training airplanes. They're passing their junk off. So our project officer,
the F-15s were junk you got?
Well, they were old, very old, with no upgrades. Oh, that's me at Delta in an MD-11.
Oh, nice.
Going across the ocean, 2 a.m. or whatever. Anyway, our project officer wrote our wartime commander, the big boss, our big boss. And I'll summarize this, kind of paraphrase it. The guy's position was he was an admiral, and his title is Sinklant, Commander-in-Chief Atlantic Forces. He's an admiral with lots and lots and lots of stars. He's a very big dog. He's the top dog. He is the head guy. And he wrote this letter to him. It says, "Dear Sinklant, we're really sorry, but we're not going to be able, you're going to have to find another F-15 unit to do our checkered flag tasking because the Air Force is not giving us airplanes that will be combat ready. We have been unable to obtain any of the combat ready equipment. So we're really sorry to say this, but you better find another F-15 unit. Love and kisses, Kunas Militia." Well, let me tell you something. When an admiral gets this kind of message and he walks over to the tree and shakes the tree, the apples fall down for weeks and weeks and weeks. We got top of the line airplanes. We were authorized to take note. I want a new canopy on that airplane. We got to have this. We got to have that.
Like this one.
We got really good airplanes. That's me. That is me and my Eagle.
Man. Now I'm envy. I've never been envy in my life, but sitting in this plane, it must be incredible. Or?
It is absolutely, and This was 30 years ago. The ones now are pretty good. We've got captive missiles for training.
Yeah.
AIM-9 Mikes. I think they were Mikes. We go out and fly that, go go out and beat each other up and then come back. It was fun.
But the F-15 is like a rocket with wings, or?
Well, it has a great capability of being beautifully designed.
Yeah. For
speed, maneuverability, and deadliness. The difference being they have the controls, so you can work the controls with your hands on stick. Mm-hmm. You don't have to look down in the cockpit, and fumble around. It's all on this right here, 2 hands. You can just go in there and slaughter people. It's amazing. And as big as it is, it's very maneuverable.
Yeah.
And that's an old one. It doesn't have the power the new ones have.
And did the Air National Guards also fly at air shows, or?
Well, we put on every 2 years they have a big air show at Navy New Orleans where we flew. Oh, okay. And the Blue Angels would come in, and because the Air Force has the Thunderbirds and the Navy has the Blue Angels, we formed our own demonstration team, which we called the Blunderbirds. And the Blunderbirds were quite famous and put on a hell of a show. And I'm happy to say that I got to fly as a member of the Blunderbirds in the F4. And it was
amazing.
Fast. And this is a true story. This is a true story. They the Blue Angels, the pilots are fine. It's all the hangers on and little strap hangers around them that are the jerks, like so many things. So there's a big party at the club after the air show. Okay? We're not invited. We were not invited at all. So we went anyway. Crashed it. And there's a kid there, and we were pictures and stuff. So he gets a program, and this was witnessed by people I absolutely trust. He goes up to one of the Blue Angel guys, and he says, "Can I have your autograph, sir?" And the guy's, "There you go, son." And the kid looks at it and says, "Wow, thank you. You guys are almost as good as the guys flying the green airplanes." It sounds like a setup, but it was absolutely true. They were flying A4s and we were flying F4s. No contest with noise, speed. We just destroyed them. And point of fact, they really are good sticks. But there isn't a squadron in the world that couldn't put on a show. If you practice as much as they did, we could have done it. I mean, it's not. Yeah. These are not God-given talents owned by only a few guys, and they were magically selected. That's just my opinion. Politics goes into a lot of that.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of guys could do it.
Yeah. And they get a lot of money to do what they're doing.
When we had the F-15 and had the Blunderbirds, someone shows a video of our F-15 Blunderbird team, and the chief of staff of the Air Force sees it. And he says, "I didn't know we had an F-15 demonstration team." What do you do now? Not for long. We had to kind of back off a little bit.
Looking back at your time in aviation, what was for you the most exciting plane to fly? Was it the F-15 Eagle or the F-4?
In some ways, every one of them was.
Yeah.
The Birddog, because I got to do an important job, and I was a lieutenant. I'm just a lieutenant. Yet I can tell the flight lead, I'm in charge. If I tell you to go home, you're going home. Mm-hmm. Like right now. Go home. What do you want me to do with these bombs? I don't give a damn what you do with the bombs. Feed them to the fish. You're out of here. Go. I've thrown guys out of. I've sold them. I've sent them home. As an instructor, it's fun to take a guy who's struggling
Mm-hmm.
and make him
Good, better.
confident,
Yeah.
and have him graduate.
Just one question back to the bird dog. Can I say that you, as a pilot in the bird dog, that you were the rules of engagement in Vietnam?
I don't know. We paid much attention to the rules of engagement. Not there weren't really. We had all kinds of rules, but we all did a standardized thing. We pretty much followed the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. But the bird dog was for you, baby. It was the freedom of flying because you were in charge over there.
Yeah, you're a lieutenant. You got a big job, real big job.
Yeah.
And many people didn't think lieutenants could do it. But over and over again, we proved that to be ridiculous.
Okay.
It was foolish. Of course we could do it.
And later on, when you came to Delta, you have strict rules. You can't do whatever you want.
No, you can't. You pretty much follow it. You're doing it exactly the way you should. I enjoyed the airline experience. I enjoyed interacting with the passengers.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. It was fun. We had a bunch of Russians on the airplane one day, and my co-pilot's he was a little worried that the Russians were going to drink the vodka from the duty-free on the plane. That was a riot. I said, they're not going to do that. I grew up with Russians in my little village. They're not like us. We're not going to. He's whining and moaning. And I said, if it makes you feel better, I'll go out and talk to them. He said, thank you. So I go out and get the leader. And we're in Cincinnati, in the terminal, in the gatehouse. And there's like 40 Russians, and the leader. And I said, get them all together. We got to talk. And I said, I grew up with. Just translate what I'm saying. And he said, okay. And I told him basically, we're glad you're here. I said, I grew up with Russian people in my village in Ohio. I can speak a little Russian right now. Yeah. I can even sing a song. Ask him if they would like me to sing the song. He says, really? I said, ask him. He says in Russian, they all go, da, da, da. So I sang this song, Rasvitali, yabuni igrushi, hoplili tumani nadbikoi, viobjila nabere katusha, na visoki bereg na krutoi. Every Russian knows the song.
Even I know it, of course, yeah.
Everybody knows the song. They were like my best buddy.
Great.
I said, make sure they don't get crazy on the plane. They were fine. No. They were fine. I enjoyed that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have a problem being a ham.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
But was it the reason why you went to the National Guard? Because you were searching for a kind of freedom of flying again?
I think it was because I wanted money, because Delta Airlines doesn't pay much when you're a new pilot. And I wanted to keep flying. Okay. I wanted to keep flying militarily. I wanted to keep flying. I didn't want to stop flying. I love flying. And I thought, well, O2s, who knows what that'll turn into.
Yeah.
And so I ended up flying a Delta trip with the Louisiana squadron commander. He was the co-pilot. I was the engineer. But we hit it off. And he said, we were, through the flight, he said, well, why are you flying that piece of shit O2? I said, well, that's the only unit that I could get in. Nobody else wanted me. Mm. He said, really? I said, yeah. See, he had been a fact in the Bird Dog too.
Oh, okay.
And they'd flown F4s. Great. He was just awesome man. Awesome squadron commander. And he said, well, hell, you come over Tuesday and we'll talk to Colonel Murphy. So I show up Tuesday to talk to Colonel Murphy, and I look like a Baptist usher at church. I've got the blue blazer. It's clean. Got a red tie, white shirt. My teeth go, ting. I'm looking pretty good. I walk into the squadron, and the first guy I see is John Labier, who was in my pilot training class, and he was a real Cajun. And he'd gone to F4s in Denay. Now he's gotten out. He's in the Kunas flying F-100s. And I walk in, and there's John. I go, Lamb. He said, Dorm. Oh. And he turns, squadron commander's right behind him. He turns around and points to me and says, "You do not want this guy in the squadron. He drinks way too much." And then I talked to Colonel Murphy, and he said, "Well, why don't you come fly with us?" I said, "I'd be happy to do that."
Wow,
and that's
cool.
gotten the Kunas militia.
Cool.
The
it changed your life again.
It did. And when we were in the F4, we had an ORI, an operational inspection from the Air Force. Very difficult. We got an excellent. That is so rare. We almost got an outstanding. We were that good in the F4. We were shining, sharp and shining. Then we go to the Eagle. I'm the squadron commander. Now I want us to get it's a brand new airplane, first ORI. Well, I'm just hoping for a SAT. If we get a SAT, that means we did really well. But I'm happy to say that the unit got a SAT. The squadron got an excellent. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
Oh, so now the war's over. This might be the best one. I'll give you a last anecdote. The war's over. We win. All these people are coming in to get the debrief. Colonels, very, very straight away guys. So we're going to have a big party and get drunk. I mean, why not? Well, we might as well. We just won the war. So I put on my British flight suit and my Sherlock Holmes hat. And I go down to meet the visitors, all these colonels. The first guy I see is General Davis. He's my actual wing commander. He's a man. He was in the Washington Air National Guard. You could look him up. I don't remember his first name. I just called him General. He was a very, very good guy, and he liked me. He flew with me, and when he come down to visit us, he would go fly with me. I'd have General Davis in the backseat, take him out and let him. We'd go kill some A-10s and stuff. So he looks at me and he says, "Crawfish, that shit hot. That's great apple. Where'd you get that?" But I got it, in Iceland. We went to England, went to Scotland, and we swapped flight suits, and I've got the full. But it's an F4 squadron, but it has proper patches, squadron leader. Well, in the door comes this jacked up little colonel, Air Force colonel. Oh, his patches are perfect. He's got his little scarf on. He doesn't have a tuck in the back of his hat. It's straight, like some guy flying C-141s, flying donuts would wear. We always
yeah.
No tack tuck. He's always zippers are zipped, sleeves are down. He walks in, "Hey, General," he salutes the general, and General Davis says, "I want you to meet our squadron commander, Colonel Crawford." The guy doesn't notice the name's not the same, and the guy says, he says, "But you're a Brit. You're a Brit." I said, "Oh, no, Colonel Darling. Actually, I'm Irish. There's far too long a story to be going into here." I called him Colonel Darling. Put on my best Irish brogue. I never told him.
You never told him?
We never told him. No. He went out of there thinking the Kunasses were led by a guy from Ireland. It was so cool. So much fun. I have never found out or never been in contact with the people who were on the ground at Dak Siang. And recently, in fact, yesterday, my county here, DeKalb County, we have a very nice park in the town of Dunwoody, city of Dunwoody. And they had a dedication yesterday of a Vietnam War memorial, hugely supported by the Vietnamese that have moved here from South Vietnam and the county and everybody, us. And so there was a big ceremony. We had massive numbers of old guys like me staggering around and massive numbers of old Vietnamese guys like me staggering around. And it was wonderful to get to talk to some of them. And it was it's a beautiful memorial. It's very, 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 very nice. It's a statue of an American soldier and a Vietnamese soldier. And
Nice.
that got me kind of fired up. So I've just sent an email out this morning. I managed to find through a long search the unit website of the guys who were on the ground at Dak Siang, and I've just sent an email off, and I hope to get an answer back from them. I would love to meet some of these guys that are still alive. I realize, I don't feel that old, but I'll be 78 next month, and I'm one of the younger guys. Most guys are over 80 that were in Vietnam. I was one of the kids. So before I get too old or too stupid and dumb to know what I'm doing, I would like to meet these guys at least somehow, and I'm hoping to get that back. The only other thing on the Dak Siang part, I worked there for many days. I worked there with the Aussie Special Forces and the American Special Forces and the ARVN guys. So I worked with whoever happened to, you get up there and you get a call and you go over, you fly over and you work with Big Mac. Big Mac was a Special Forces guy from Philadelphia, and his call sign was Big Mac. And you could almost hear the Philly accent when he talked on the radio. Have you seen the movie Rocky?
Yeah.
Boxer.
Yeah.
Well, you're familiar with his accent.
Yeah.
Rocky's Philly accent. Now that's kind of a cartoon of a Philly accent, but they do talk like that a little bit. And so I worked with those guys. And when you work with people like that, sometimes, really, really bad things happen. I was talking to Big Mac on the radio, and there was a lot of shouting, and obviously there was a fight going on. And one of their guys got shot. I heard him say, "Crow got shot. Crow just got shot." And I don't know who Crow was. That was his call sign, Big Mac and Crow. Green Berets, a small team, very close. And I don't know I don't know who he was or what happened to him. I don't know. I never found out. I wish I could have. The Aussies I lived with, and so I knew them better than the Special Forces guys. The guys that I worked with that night, getting into night airstrike, I never met any of those guys, and I don't even know where they were based. See, the problem is it was 50 plus years ago, and I didn't keep a diary. I did not. I wish I had. I wish I had done, but I was just a kid, and I thought, I'll remember this. Well, you don't. So I don't know what day it was, but those fellas that I worked with, I should mention this. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but when we put that airstrike in for those guys, two F-100s showed up. Blade 03 and Blade 04. Stanley J. Smith and Larry D. Crocker were their names. I've never been able to find out what happened to them. Are they still alive? I wrote them up for medals. I don't know if they got them. It was very hard to communicate in Vietnam. All we had were these. Where I was, all we had were a phone. You crank a hand, an army field phone, working. And you couldn't talk to very many people. We didn't have a fancy communication setup like you would have at an Air Force base. So things like that. But when I worked with those same guys, I think a few days later, or it might have been a week later, I don't know, they got overrun. I think the NVA busted them up. And the guy said, I remember, they all have call signs. I think Charlie Deuce is like a second in command. Charlie 1, Charlie Deuce. I don't know who Charlie Deuce is. That was the purpose of the email that I sent to try to find out. And he said, they're throwing their rifles down. We're getting overrun. And he said, I need to get to the camp. And so I said, can you see me? Yes, I can see you. And I dove and shot 4 rockets in a row. Said, can you see those rockets 4 in a row? He said, yes. I said, head that way. That's directly to the river, which is about less than a kilometer north of the camp. And I'm going to try to call the camp and tell them that you're on the way and be on the lookout for you. I don't know if he made it or not. I don't know his name. I don't know who he was. I don't know if the guy made it. I hope he did. I hope he did. The day that we were trying to get the fellas off and I called it Nui Ek, but it may have been called Nui Pek. When I read the map, our maps were in meters, which is not something Americans are used to. So these are pretty high hills. It's much hillier than you would think. And so I called it Nui Ek. I'm going to continue calling it that because that's what, yes.
Was it because most of the maps were originally from the French?
Probably. Or they copied them. Yep. It was a very, Dak Siang is up in the highlands, like a spine of mountains that go up to, I don't know how high they go. They go way up there, I'll tell you. They're really high. And the bad guys used that as a sanctuary to build up their forces, and they did we got after them pretty good, but they had roads built under the trees that you literally couldn't see. At least that was our thought. I'm trying to the day that the helicopter got shot down was they shot I was just listening. I was waiting for my fighters to show up. I was going to work a little bit over to the side. And they shot a Huey down on top of the mountain, of the hill, Nui Ek. Pretty big hill. Looked big to me. And there were North Vietnamese on the hilltop shooting at the guys in the down chopper. The Army sent some Cobras in to try to take care of the NVA on the hill, and they shot the Cobras down. They shot at least 2 down that I remember. And I got onto their frequency and said, "Do you guys like some help?" Yeah. And I think we talked about this. I put out a call and we got 2 fighters. I don't remember their call signs. They did high angle strafe. And later when I flew F-100s in the Guard, we did high angle strafe. So you come in and dive as though you're going to do a bomb run, but you're strafing. So you got to be careful, because if you get target fixation, it's you can hit the ground. Mm. But I seem to think, I'm probably wrong, but I seem to think we'd open fire about 5,000 feet, not a long burst because you don't have time, but it would give you a chance to you have to gauge the wind. If you're drifting, you bank into the wind to stop the drift. Try to keep the airplane centered, ball in the center, because if anything's off, if you're pushing on the rudder, the nose it's going to go all over the place. Same with shooting rockets. You can't be pushing or pulling or stepping on the rudders, because the rocket will go. Who knows where it'll go? Might go anywhere. But they strafed, and there was a massive, big secondary after all the explosions in the foundation of this house. And then here's where my memory breaks down, because I only had about 3 hours gas, maybe 3:15, not too much. I mean, that's about it. You fly one all the time. I would say 3 hours, you'd probably be thinking about getting on the ground, as I recall. I don't remember. And I haven't gone down.
When I fly, I have got about 2 hours, 10 minutes per side, but then you're totally empty.
Yes. Yeah, I've stayed up longer than 3 hours. But one tank was completely empty, and the other tank was almost empty, and I didn't know. You know how those gauges are.
Yeah.
You just don't know. So you fly until one tank runs out, and then you switch tanks while it's still sputtering, because now you know that tank's empty. There's nothing there. Don't change tanks and switch to the dead, which people have done. People have done that. Anyway, I don't remember how long it took, because I remember massive delays while the higher ups decided what to do to rescue this helicopter crew. And I would talk to people and say, I put in airstrikes. I don't know if it was that day or the next day. I think it was that day. I think it was the same day. I don't know what day it was. I didn't write it down, but it would be easy to find out, because they sent A-1 Sandys, A-1s, and 2 Jolly Green Giants to rescue these guys. And I put in 9 airstrikes. I only had 8 rockets, but I put in 9 airstrikes in a row. That's a lot of airstrikes to put in. That's a lot of bombs. And the thing that's haunted me ever since is, and it just really, really bugs me, is when the rescue force finally checked in on the radio. They made contact with me, and I said, I've just put in 9 airstrikes, and I'm not getting any ground fire now at all. None. 0. And if there's anybody, I didn't say this, but if there was anybody they would want to shoot down, it would be me, because I've been raining hell on their heads for, that's a lot of bombs.
Yeah.
9 airstrikes, strafe bombing, that's a lot of punishment. And it was pretty quiet on this approach to the hill. And I said, in my position, there is 0 ground fire at this time. And this guy, I'm not going to use their call sign or anything. I'm not going to identify them. But this A-1 driver said, and this is a quote, he said this to me on the radio. He said, I'm the on-scene commander now, FAC. You can hit the road. Go home. And I said, and when they show up with the Jollies, yeah, he is the on-scene commander. I get it. So I flew back to Pleiku, which is about 50 miles. So the Jollies made, and I wasn't there, but they evidently ignored what I said, I guess, because I was taxiing in. I was on the ground at Pleiku, taxiing to the place where we could get some gas. I look off to my left, and I see 4 A-1s and 1 Jolly Green Giant. So they shot one of the Jolly Greens down, and they rolled over and went in, and everybody died but one guy, I think. I don't know I should look that up and see what day that was. I don't know. But I remember looking over, and my heart just sank, because there's supposed to be 2 Jollies and a bunch of saved Army guys. So we never got these guys out. Never. They all died, I'm sure. And all the guys in the Jolly died. And it's always bothered me that the guy, I think, now maybe he did it. Maybe he can't. I can't really say what he did, because I was flying back to Pleiku with very little gas. I wasn't, he showed up and I took off. I climbed and leaned it out and, stressed the fuel as good as I could and landed. It takes about an hour, flying 50 miles, depending on the wind. So 50 minutes or so, whatever. It's over, and they're landing, and there's only 1 Jolly. So, and in hindsight, you think, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done something else, should have done this or that. And I didn't. I should have gone over those guys and found out what happened. But I was really beat, and I was just, I guess, sick, just horrified at what I didn't push it. I just left. It's nothing I could do anyway. And that's always bothered me. That is always eating at me. I did what I could, and I don't know what happened, because the guy just basically told me to get out. He was going to make the decisions on. It was clear he was going to make his own decisions on where to come in, and I would think he would have come in, and maybe he did, where there was no ground fire, or nothing at 4A1s with all the stuff they're carrying, CBU, and they're loaded, they're tailor made to, and these were just, they had 51 cal, but no one had been shooting at me with 51 cals, which surprised me. So small arms from that direction. Now, where they came in from, I don't know. I assume it was heavier at AAA, because they shot a Jolly down, and that's pretty hard to do. One of my good friends used to fly them. Yes.
But one Jolly made it back home. So did one Jolly Green helicopter bring out some guys or not?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
I think one guy came in and took so much fire he had to pull away.
Oh, okay.
I think the other guy tried several times and kept trying until he got shot down.
Okay.
I think, but I don't know. I'm not positive. I don't know.
So was this? Why was the communication so poor? Because for you, of course, it was interesting. Did those guys make it or not? But even if you want to know it, you had no chance to get this information, or?
Well, you pass the information up the chain, and the Army's passing it up. I'm passing it up. We got this helicopter crew that's still alive. They're still popping smoke. We got to get these guys out of there. And the way it normally works is, if some Americans are on the ground, we're coming to get you. We're going to get you out. We don't care what the cost is. We're going to get your ass out of there. And we failed, as far as I know. I don't think they ever got the guys out.
Okay.
I wish I knew. It would be, even if I just don't know. I don't know.
There's one thing, because you said you've been to this kind of reunion now, where you met some other fellow Vietnam soldiers. So far as I know, 15, 20 years ago, nobody spoke about this time, or?
Well, I haven't talked about it I didn't talk about it for years and years and years. Ever. I never wore any lapel pins I didn't tell anybody medals. I didn't talk about it. My brother once said, "You never talk about this. We try, you just won't." I think he said I bit his head off or something. I don't believe I was angry with my brother, but I just didn't talk about it for many years. It just bothered me.
Yeah.
But I'm getting old, not getting any younger. Might as well talk about it. Get what you know out there, and we did a lot of good. We really did a lot of good. There. I can't remember if we talked about the A1 guy who got shot down.
No.
Did we talk about him last time? Okay, this is still at Dak Siang. These are all mushed together in my head. It just went on and on and on and on. The NVA are across the river. They're hidden on the hillside, steep hillside. They built a road along there you couldn't see. They had recoilless rifles that could shoot accurately at the airstrip and deny supplies to the Special Forces camp. And they dug zigzag trenches up to the wire. And before we got up there, they moved a bunch of us up there. But before we got there, when you look I took pictures of the camp, which over the years have faded. But it's very interesting because you can see these zigzag trenches the North Vietnamese have dug, sappers, and they're getting right up to the wire. And there's this great big area of black where they put napalm on them, and that ended their interest in any more digging. And every one of those trenches had napalm. Napalm is a wonderful weapon, but you would not want to be anywhere within, anywhere close to it, because it's sticky. It sticks on, and it's way hotter than the inside of your oven when you're cleaning it. I don't remember now. It might be like 1,500 degrees. It's really hot, and it's one of the most wonderful weapons ever devised for making people change their minds about attacking your friends. It's very good. It does a job.
Anyway, they dropped the napalm. I think it was also dropped from the A4s, from the Sky Raiders, and also in big barrels from C-130s, huh?
Well, they wouldn't have done that at this place. They could never have brought in. That would be too inaccurate. You're talking, dropping very, 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 very close. Extreme accuracy is you would have, if you had hard bombs, you'd have to drop the hard bombs over to the side. You'd have to salvo that, figure out where there's some trees. Maybe they have, maybe they're in the trees. That's where they're coming from. So put all the bombs in the trees, then use the napalm and strafe up close, because you can control strafe particularly. You could strafe very, very. I mean, if you're a good strafer, and we strafed in the Guard years later. I strafed in the F-100 and the F-4. The F-100 had 4 cannons, and unlike all modern fighters do now, in the F-100, you carried 1,200 rounds of 20 millimeter.
Wow,
that's a lot of ammo and that's a lot. 1,200 rounds is a lot, and all 4 guns firing at the same time is 6,000 rounds a minute. I mean, it's a lot of lead. And when an F-100 shoots all 4 cannons, it sounds like a giant is tearing a big piece of canvas. You hear this big rip noise, and the ground just goes.
Oh.
And it's wonderful. But at the time we were talking about, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for my time. These guys, I got there early. I got a couple airstrikes, scheduled airstrikes, and there's a battle going on right up the river. And it's troops in contact. They're shooting it out at close range. And the forward air controller who was running it, I knew a little bit. And I believe in, how do I say this? I think the fighters, they were 2 A1s dropping, and I believe they were kept on too restrictive of flight path. But on the other hand, I wasn't the guy controlling the strike, so that's what they did. And their judgment, it was probably considered the way to go because the bad guys were so close. See, they adapted their tactics and discovered that the best combat because there's no way to beat us unless they get so close to the Americans that we can't drop bombs and napalm on them. So their tactic was to close very close. So that's probably what happened. Anyway, the A1s are coming in on restricted headings, dropping their ordnance, pulling off, and turning downriver to the right, away from the friendlies and over the bad guys. And on one pass, the flight lead says, "I'm hit." And I perk up in the cockpit. I'm 3-4 miles away. I'm just circling. I go, aha. And I see him turn and head. He's out there about 4 miles. And I see his plane come off, and he's turning and coming down the river. The mountain is off to his left. The river is off to his right. And there's a flame about 100 feet long from his airplane. And 2 says, "You're on fire." And he said something like, "I know." And he flies a little further. and he flies as long as he can. And then he says, I'm getting out. And he ejects. And that airplane had a unusual ejection system called a Yankee ejection system. In other words, a rocket was fired which pulled you out of the seat. And unlike a normal ejection seat that I rode, either the early ones like the T-37 had a cannon shell, the F-100 had, I guess, a rocket. The F-4 had a rocket. The F-15 had a rocket. But this thing pulled you out, and then good system. He jumps. I'm watching this with my mom. Just, oh man, what's? Oh no! And I'm like, oh my god! So I'm flying over there. The FAC is still putting in the airstrike. He can't do anything. He's still got a fight going on.
Yep.
So I watched him come down in his chute. The airplane just, as soon as he jumped out, the A1 just went, hit the ground, big explosion. And his parachute comes down, lands in the trees, and then disappears as he falls through the trees and down. And so I'm just trying to stay out of the way. And I don't remember if I talked to Two's flying around. He breaks off the strike and comes over to fly cap for his lead. And there's the leader's on the ground and he's on his survival radio and he's whispering. And he says, he's on a hillside. He's up here because he's on the side of a mountain. He's up here pretty high from the river's down by my elbow. And he says, I can hear a lot of guys moving around down by the river.
Oh my God.
And Two says, you better keep your damn head down. And Two rolls in because we could see where he'd gone in. We knew exactly where he was. We'd seen his chute go through the trees. And so Two rolls in and drops all this CBU down in that area down by the river. And Fred, I can't tell you how many, looking at what I remember you're looking through trees, so you can't see it all, but you're just seeing hundreds of these little flashes. It just goes on and on and on. Each one depends on what kind of it. They called it Yankee pellet bombs. So each one's a frag bomb, blows up and spreads fragments in all directions. So it hits, and if you're lucky and on one side of the tree, you're going to be okay, except there's probably one or two on this side, your side of the tree, they're going to get you. Anyway, this just goes on. These things blow up and blow up and blow up and blow up and blow up, and this keeps going. And then, of course, Two's getting ready to roll in again. And Lee comes up and says, nobody's moving down there now. We all thought, yes, nobody's moving. That's a good sign. The original guy started calling on guard for any helicopters with ropes, which I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. The ropes aren't going to cut it. So I called back on the Fox Mike to Doc Toe, which is just right there. It's in cannon range of Doc Siang, artillery range. I mean, Ed shot artillery at us when we were putting the airstrike in. And I knew they had a dust off there because I'd landed there to get gas. And one time I ran out of gas on the runway. We had to push the airplane off in the grass. So I called Doc Toe. They scrambled a dust off because they have a jungle penetrator. Dust off is a call sign of the medevac helicopters. Big red cross painted on it. So then these guys have can I say balls on the video? I guess I can.
Yeah, of course.
They've got balls that big. Probably some kid, some young guys, or a warrant officer's stripes all the way up his sleeve. They flew in and got the guy out with the jungle penetrator.
Wow.
And the end of my day, I fly back to play coup, and there's the guy sitting on the ramp, the major that got shot down. is right there. And I remember it because he was drinking a root beer. He was drinking a root beer, and he had less than 30 days to go. I never got his name. I don't know, I guess because I was a young, dumb kid. I didn't think. But he kept saying, don't anybody tell my wife I got shot down. Everybody shut up. Don't anybody say this. You know, and I guess I had things to do. I had to go make a report. I mean, I can't stand around and just, you know, talk to this guy and then go to the bar. No, you got stuff to do. You've just finished the mission. You got to go debrief with intel, you know, the maintenance side, anything. I got stuff to do. I got places to go. So I didn't have time. Someone else is taking the airplane right away and going right back up. So I had to get out of there. So I never got to talk to him. But I've never forgotten watching him eject from the A-1, him coming up on the radio and saying, there's lots of guys moving around down there.
Yeah.
Two saying, you better keep your damn head down. And then he does a 4th of July display. I have no idea how many people were down there, but whoever it was got the chop, which is okay with me.
Did you see the movie Bat 21?
No, I did not.
Yeah,
I figured anytime Hollywood makes a movie, they always get it wrong. They always make it stupid. They always have things in it that are impossible. I'm the worst. You don't ever want to go to the movie. Here, pro tip: if we ever go to an airplane movie together, don't go with me. I'll just get up. Just send me away, because I'll bitch the whole movie about how this is wrong. That's not. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. So I just couldn't bring myself to watch it. I read the book. Books are good. Movies are usually pretty lousy.
Yeah.
They always get it wrong.
Yeah.
They're why can't you just tell the truth is exciting enough to have me buy the book?
Yeah.
You know, get the book. Why do you have to juice it up?
It's the same with
I never understood that.
With the famous German submarine movie, Das Boot. And
oh yes.
And it's an incredibly good movie. I think I've seen it 20 times. It's amazing. But I had the honor to speak with a guy who served on a submarine, on a German submarine, and he said this movie is rubbish.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the first Top Gun movie.
Yeah.
You know, when the Top Gun movie came out, Tom Cruise, yeah, right. The guy buzzes the tower and nothing happens to him. They would have if he had done that where we flew, or if he had done that when I was a squadron commander, I would have taken his wings.
Yeah.
You're never flying again. Ever. In fact, we're going to take your wings. You're no longer a pilot. You're out. We're going to send you to command post in Alaska or something, and you're going to have a pretty lousy time. I advise you just to kind of get out of the Air Force, because you can't allow that. Yeah. You must be disciplined. That's the only way the only way you can win is to have really good leadership, really good training, excellent training. And the equipment is not nearly as important as the reporters think it is. You know, they always say, well, the F-15 killed 105. It wasn't the airplane that did this. It wasn't the airplane that did it. It was the guys in the airplane that did it. The airplane's an excellent tool, but it's not the airplane doing it's not, it just isn't. If we had taken if we could have gotten rid of some of our numbskull leadership in the American Air Force and had real leaders, someone like Robin Olds running the show. This is not very politically correct, but what do I care? Instead of some of these stuffed shirts. And we got the Vietnamese Air Force and went up against the American Air Force with our guys in the Vietnamese, we'd have slaughtered them. because they did dumb tactics, dictated. It wasn't their fault the tactics were dumb, but they had restrictions that made them fly predictable things. You can't, it's just lousy leadership, and it doesn't matter what era you're in, whether you're talking about infantrymen or air fighting, you got to have good leadership, excellent leadership. You must have superb training, good training, hard, realistic training, and decent equipment. All you need is decent equipment. The Birddog was no super plane, but it's a really good little airplane.
Yeah,
it's more than decent, quite acceptable. Does the job really well. That's you don't need to build a super plane to do it, unless you're going into unless the situation changes. At least that's my soapbox. I'm going to get in trouble here.
No.
I don't want to go on a rant. Well,
just
yeah.
Just another question. Why have there been no aerial threats to the Birddog? Was there no Vietnamese Air Force flying in the area where you were? Because the Viet Cong was fighting below. Why did the North Vietnamese have no planes to shoot you down in the Birddog?
Well, you have to consider this. The MiG-21s and the MiG-7, the MiG-21 particularly, was designed as a point defense fighter to defend something, whether it's an air base or a block of countryside. So it didn't have any legs. You can't get there from here. They couldn't. There's no way they could get all the way down and get back. Plus, they would have had to go through all our. We had people, watching with radar. That we knew whenever they took off. It was known they took off. We knew where they were going. They would never have made it. There just wasn't any way they could do that. Now, if we'd been up in Laos or further up near the DMZ, maybe that would have changed. I was so far away from, we didn't have to even consider it. I had given thought about what I would do if something happened. Maybe they get some they had biplanes they would fly around in the backcountry, Anatov biplanes. I thought, well, somebody is attacking me. I really can't do much. But I do have 8 rockets, and I'd be willing to bet that whoever this guy is not a trained warfighter. And if I can put 3 or 4 rockets in his face or close to him, he's going to lose his aggression pretty quickly. And all I got to do is start making dog chew toy noises on the radio. Arr, 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 help, 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 help. And everyone and their brother is going to be coming to help me. I just have to stay out of range.
Okay.
What would he have? Probably a machine gun. Well, you stay a couple thousand feet away, you're pretty safe.
Okay.
So, but that was just something I thought. What if somehow they got a plane, not a jet, but some kind of old biplane or something? I know they had those. What would you do? I thought, what would you do, Dorm? So, well, hell, I'd turn into his face and shoot rockets at him.
Yeah.
And then try to get away. Well, the top of our wings were painted white, so you were pretty easy to see. But I don't think we could outclimb anything. A heavy Birddog's not a great climbing airplane.
Yeah.
I don't. We were pretty heavy. We had all those rockets and stuff. We didn't go. We couldn't climb very well. And it was never a problem. Never considered it too much.
Your Birddog had a constant speed or fixed pitch prop?
There may have been 1 or 2 that were fixed pitch, but almost all of them were constant speed. And they were better performers. They were much better performers, I think.
Because everyone says that the climb rate is way better with the fixed pitch. You can climb with 1,700 feet per minute. You can't do that with the constant speed, but you're way faster with the constant speed.
Yeah, we chose speed over climb. I'd rather go,
Yeah.
if I could go fast, I'd rather go fast.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you've been up 3 hours and you're thinking, I really have to pee. This is something I got to get on. I need to get on the ground.
Okay, Dohrman. Anything else?
This is over now. You're just flying back. It's safe. No one's going to come bother you. You're just flying, and you want to get home. Get back.
Yeah. Great. We got a delay.
I don't know what else
5
you need.
seconds. It's interesting. When I say something, it seems that it needs 5 seconds till you get it.
Well, it seems perfect. There have been a couple little, delays, but not bad at all.
Not bad. Okay, that's fine.
I don't know what else I did. I did finish up down at Bamituit, working for the O-1, the Vietnamese, and I need to say something about that, because it's fashionable to denigrate them and say that they were lousy, they didn't fight, they surrendered. That's just not true. That is not true. Any of the O-1 units that was well led and well trained could stand up to the North Vietnamese. They did it. It's just not right. I have the utmost respect. I can't say this strongly enough. I have the utmost respect for those Vietnamese guys, because they were out there for years fighting the war. You know, they were there for years. They lost family. They lost, and also, I have a lot of respect for the North Vietnamese. They were very tough guys. The Vietnamese are tough people. The ones that came over here, they're very successful because they work so hard. I admire them. I admired them. I liked them. I'd go. We would have an operation, and we'd have they have a briefing, and then they have dinner. They serve us dinner. And have you ever had Nook Mom?
No.
Fish sauce?
No.
Well, you need to find a Vietnamese restaurant and try some Nook Mom.
Nook Mom. Okay, interesting.
Nook Mom. Nook Mom. It's fish sauce. And I'll just give you a heads up. You have to get by the smell. But once you get by the smell, it's pretty good.
Okay.
In fact, I double dog dare you to do it.
Yeah, I will. But we have to find a Vietnamese restaurant here in Austria.
Honestly. Yeah, there may not be. We have many here. Atlanta, the area that I'm in, it's a lot of Vietnamese have lived here for many years.
Okay.
Many years. That was quite a ceremony yesterday. I went over and circulated among the Vietnamese guys and met some of the Vietnamese pilots and talked. It was wonderful. It was really, it was quite heartwarming. It made me feel good.
Yeah. There was the story with the Birddog who landed on the aircraft carrier with Major Buang Lee. You know it?
I don't know the story except I've read it. I know he did it because he had to. But you got to do what you got to do, save your family.
Yeah. Major Buang Lee, his wife and 5 children, and the president of our Birddog Association is still in contact with this guy. So yeah, it's great.
You mentioned MiGs. Yesterday at the ceremony, I met the Navy A-1 pilot flying Navy A-1s who shot a MiG down with his A-1. I've seen it on the History Channel. If you have not seen that episode, go to on YouTube the History Channel and search for the Navy A-1 guy shoots a MiG down. And I met the guy. He's 88 years old. He looks good.
Great.
So it was a good day. I'm trying to think of anything else that I could tell you. After Doc Xiang was the hot spot of my career in Vietnam. Mostly with the Koreans, it was quiet. There were some hot things happening. A lot of hot, some, but not too much. Doc Xiang was like the lobster dropped into the boiling water. It's just hot. Everything's hot. Everything is hot. Every day is hot, and it's bad. It's just not good. And you're thinking, oh man, Doc Peck, Doc Siang, they tried to get both camps, and then they quieted down. They gave up and left, pretty much. And I got sent down to Bamituit. Go ahead.
I had a lot of interviews with the Army guys that flew the Bird Dog, and they were all super close with their crew chiefs. So they had a very good relationship with the crew chiefs, and they sometimes became best friends because they knew that the crew chief was reliable for the condition of the Bird Dog. How was this in the Air Force compared to the Army?
Oh, we were on first name basis. There was no rank out there. We didn't call each other. We used first names. Okay. Hey, John, how's the plane? It's okay, Dorm. It's okay. We had to do this, had to do that, but it's so good now. And so we took them up with us. Particularly out of Bamituit, it was quieter. I think I sent you a picture of this great big guy playing baseball.
Yeah.
That's Big John. Big John was big boy. And I took John up with me on a flight at Bamituit, and we were putting in some fighters, and there were known guys there. We knew kind of where they were. And I told John, as I fly overhead, I've shot the rocket. I'm going to be flying away looking for the fighters. I want you to look back and see if you can see anything. And he sees a bunch of them jump up and run. They're running. And I told the guy coming down final to switch to guns and shoot left of the mark about 50 meters, 50 yards, and spray the area really well because there's a bunch of guys running through the high grass. And then I had the other guy come in and repeat that. And that's where we changed our bombing, our bombs and strafe to the area where these guys had run. Now, I can't, and so John was invaluable to me. Not only did he keep the airplane, but he spotted those guys. And, I mean, it was, in fact, I have a video of me on my last flight. We stored our stuff in a Connex, a little steel container. And I've got a guy out there with my movie camera, and he's videoing me. My last flight, I'm done. And I step out of the Connex, and I go like this, ta-da, for the camera. And those jackasses threw water all over me that I didn't see them. And they threw water, big buckets of water on me. These guys, they were the best. All our crew chiefs were like that. It was like that at Phuket. It wasn't sergeant, yes, captain, yes, sergeant. No, it was first name basis.
Oh, great.
Or nickname. Yeah, we had a sergeant in our little headquarters we called Hurricane because he was from Louisiana.
Okay.
He had stripes all over his arm, but we never called him sergeant. We just said, hey, Hurricane, I need that. We used a lot of nicknames. Okay. Colonel Wisniewski. Now, when we were talking to Colonel Wisniewski to his face, who was one of the most generous and wonderful commanders I ever had in my life, Colonel Wisniewski. We always called him Colonel Wiz, but Colonel Wisniewski was my immediate superior when I first showed up. You couldn't find a better man. Okay. You couldn't find a better commander, ever. He was terrific. And I tried to, years later when I was, they said I was going to run that F15 unit. I thought, I've worked for some really good guys. Colonel Wiz that's a pretty good way to go. I learned from some real gems.
Are you still in contact with one of those guys?
I'm still in contact with a lot of I'm still in contact with a few of the forward air controllers.
Okay.
Not that many. A number of them have died. My friend Bernie Hale, here's a plug. Bernie Hale wrote this book for his kids. It's called Jungle Fighter Pilots.
I don't know this book. Interesting.
He self-published it.
Oh, wow.
And he wrote it for his children. And Bernie Hale, can you see a picture of Bernie right there?
Oh, great.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Handsome guy, wonderful guy from Montana. And I only knew Bernie for about 5 months, but we got along together so well. He was literally my best friend.
Okay.
And he sadly got, I mean, I would do anything for Bernie Hale, anything. And sadly, Bernie developed early onset dementia and has passed away.
Oh, okay.
Our fearless leader, Dave Rogers, he was kind of our mentor. We had a major over us, but Dave was, he was 32 years old and he could beat us at anything.
Okay.
Anything. It didn't matter what it was. And but he was a tremendous leader in the same vein that Robin Olds was a tremendous leader. He was a bold and dynamic man, a hell of a pilot. Guys like that, and Dave has just passed away. So, our numbers are shrinking. It's a shame, but I'll never forget them.
Yeah.
And these books, I don't know if they're still available. They might be, but this is not a book that's boom boom blow up the world. This is a book about us, the guys, in our time working for the Koreans, and it's more about that than airstrikes and calling in, slaughtering the enemy. No, it's about the things we did in our day-to-day life. I thought he did a terrific. He'd never written a book before, ever. So it's quite an accomplishment.
And the point is, I was searching so long and so hard to get in contact with guys like you, because we fly the Birddog today in peace, and we want to know about the history of the plane. And when we are a group of pilots and we sit together and we talk about flying the Birddog, we talk about ground loops, about difficulties with crosswind and so on. But then we always say, imagine how it must have been sitting in the Birddog with no armament, and those guys down there were shooting at you. And that's why we call you legends, because for us, you had balls made of steel.
Well, what you usually in a permissive environment, which we mostly had, you would be over the friendlies, assuming there were friendlies, and the fighters would fly around you. And
okay,
you could, if there were friendlies in a position, you would probably want to attack parallel to their position. So if they were oriented, if the friendlies were east-west, then you could come in from the east or the west.
Yeah.
And you would be behind and over the friendlies, or right over the friendlies, inside. So you would be turning right, hard right turns. You just let the pilots come in, and then they say, one's in hot. Now, what we did, because the bad guys spoke English, you could say, one's in hot from Minnesota. That's up in the north.
Okay. Smart. Yeah.
Two's in hot from California. That's the west. That's the west. So you could do that. And so you'd be doing a series of hard turns. I mean, racket around, because you got to see him. You have to see him to clear him, because he might be lined up wrong.
Mm.
He might be lined up on the friendlies. He might be lined up on you. I almost got hit by a F-100. That intake looked like it was that big.
Whoa. Okay.
He shot out of the clouds, and he was right there, and I shoved the stick over. He was right there. They came down through the clouds, and there I was. And I just dove the airplane and went right over my head. So you got to see him to clear him. And once you see him and see that he's lined up right, you lead cleared hot, And he comes in, he calls one away, which means the bomb's off, Raj lead, and you watch the bomb and you watch it hit, And then you either ask the friendlies, how was that? Or you judge yourself, because now two's in from California. He's coming in from there. So you got to crank it around and watch him. And then now, so you crank around hard left, keep him in sight, coming back to the right, watching him. Two's in hot, clear two. One away, two. You see the bomb come off. He calls when it's off. You watch it come down. Bam! Or you give him a correction. Hit 50 meters left or right. Now, I was a smart ass, I will freely admit. And if it was a target just bombing monkeys and stuff, and we just said there might be a truck park in here. We don't know, but we're going to bomb this area. I would always say, hit my smoke if you can. And the one time one of the fighters said, "You got a pretty smart mouth, Thack." And I said, "I might have a smart mouth. Let's see you hit the smoke. Show me what you got." And most of them couldn't do it. Now, the Vietnamese pilots that have been flying there doing this for 15 years, if their A-37s were one of their call signs was SIPA, and you'd hear they got an oxygen mask on. And so you can hear them talk, and SIPA check, 2, 3, 4. They have a more high pitched voice.
Yeah.
SIPA 1025, hit my smoke. SIPA in hot. Cleared hot, SIPA. Smoke's here. Bomb goes smack.
Oh, really?
Wow. On it.
Wow.
On it. No messing around. They were so good.
Okay.
They were really good. Our guys were really good too. But you could tell when somebody came in and had been at the Pentagon for 4 years, and they gave him a quick tour in the F4 and sent him out to drop bombs. And they'd be throwing bombs all over the countryside.
Yeah.
Now, I say that because me, Dohrman Crawford, former ace of the base, I have thrown bombs all over the countryside, learning to fly fighters myself. I've strewn them all over the world. I've tossed some of them so far, I don't know if they ever came down. It's difficult. Bombing is not easy.
Yeah.
Manual bombing, where you don't select the position on the ground in the computer. That's the bomb. No, it's you. You pick it at the right altitude, right, dive angle, right mill setting, offset for the wind. That's on you. And I've sure thrown some bombs. I got to be pretty good. When I was learning, everybody get in the bunker. Crawford's in the air. Can't go anywhere. It's difficult. It's difficult. Fun though. I had a great career. Great career. I have no regrets.
I believe that.
Keep me posted. I'll try to get. I would love to make a reunion like that. I would just be super.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Dohrman, thank you very much for this. It was a big honor, a great pleasure, and I really learned a lot because I didn't know that much about the Air Force flying in Vietnam. It was very interesting. And your career.
Don't believe the Army guys who say we ground looped all the airplanes. I never heard of anybody ground looping an Air Force Birddog. Never. It probably happened, but I didn't know about it.
I was afraid asking you about this topic.
Oh no, I didn't. We had 8 or 9 pilots. No one ever ground looped an airplane. And we had one guy who was pretty worthless, so they got rid of him. He never ground looped the airplane. And if Tailspin Tommy could make it, we called him Tailspin Tommy. He was just less said about him, the better.
Tailspin Tommy.
Yeah, he wasn't so hot.
Yeah,
he never ground one. It's not that difficult.
Because from the crash records, the Air Force did.
Oh,
they ground looped a lot of planes. Yeah.
Oh, I know they did, but I never saw one.
Yeah, and I can understand why. Maybe because the Birddog thinking is 85 knots, and the Air Force thinking is 300 knots. And you are for sure an outstanding pilot, because for you the Birddog hasn't ever been an issue. It was an easy plane for you. Huh?
It was very easy, and I just loved it. It was like putting on gloves that are comfortable.
Yeah.
You just get in it, and it just feels good.
Everything is natural. It is, yeah, as you described, and you're sitting exactly in the center of gravity. The whole plane is moving around you, but you don't really feel it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great plane. Yeah. Dohrman, thanks a lot. I wish you all the best. And finally, I always ask the guys, is there any advice? Now you're 78 years old. Looking back at your time, is there any advice you want to give a pilot like me?
Don't trust anybody. Pre-flight the airplane yourself.
Yeah.
Always. And don't do anything dumb. Don't go flying through thunderstorms. Just common sense. You'll be fine.
Thank you. And have a nice day. Bye.
Wiedersehen.
Gentlemen, what a great interview with Dohrman Crawford, Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, from the Birddog into the F15 EAGLE. He flew the F100, the F4 Phantom, and finally the F15. What a great story. What a nice man. I had big fun talking with him. It's almost 4 hours long, but I didn't want to cut out a lot of things. We had a 6-hour interview, and I reduced it to 4. But I think every minute is worth watching it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And if there are some friends of Dohrman, please keep your comments in the comment section down below.